And the red light is on. Everyone, I'm kind of flying solo tonight. Welcome to BS Session 97, where tonight we discuss what in the wild, wild world of precision rifle sports happened in Colorado.
This right here has the ability with a 30 caliber clip to disperse with 30 bullets within half a second.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
You're listening to your weekly dose of BS, Ballistically Speaking. The Ballistically Speaking Podcast.
The red light's on. I hope it's working.
It does relax.
How did you like that intro? I thought of it all myself.
It's great.
Excellent. I think
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that with the boss. So for everyone joining us at home, this is BS Session 97. We are blessed with Van and Carlee, and we are going to talk about all of the shenanigans that happened down in Colorado. So, Van and Carlee, where were you these last little bit?
We were at the Cameo Shooting and Education Complex in Grand Junction, Colorado for the IPRF World Championships for centerfire. The IPRF is the International Precision Rifle Federation, and every 2 years they have a world championship for centerfire, offset by every 2 years having a world championship for rimfire. So this was only the second centerfire world championship and the third overall. So it was pretty exciting, and it was hosted by the United States Precision Rifles Association, or USPRA, in Cameo in Grand Junction, Colorado, which is arguably one of the most difficult places in the world to shoot, and I would say can confirm.
Yeah. It's an incredible venue. I know they have at least one major match, the Ruber Koenig match.
Yes.
That Doug Koenig and Keith Baker put on in April of every year, or kind of in the springtime.
In the PRS Pro Series.
In the PRS Pro Series, and I know a bunch of our team shooters have shot that match before, both of our US and Canadian guys, and then a whole bunch of Canadians go down and shoot that match every year, and it's a good thing that they did, because they knew what they were prepared.
Yeah.
And even then, the course of fire was still significantly different from that match. But I mean, it was an incredible time. We obviously went and kind of we wore two different sets of hats. We went as Apex Optics as one of the sponsors of the match itself. And we had a demo tent at the range, and we were able to showcase our stuff and chat with people. And I brought my pistol, my Shadow 2, that was custom circuit by Black Box Customs. And
that was novel for a lot of countries.
Yeah, and
I had demo a pistol.
We had the Fusion on there, the new Fusion Red Dot, and people were just blown away by that thing. And everybody got a chance to shoot some ammo for free. And we brought, I think, 500 rounds of ammo down from Canada. We blew through all that on day one. We had to go buy 500 more at the range, which was stupid cheap compared to up here.
Oh, and so convenient. You just march down to the range office and just buy more ammo.
Yeah. So it was really good.
It
was fantastic. But then, we were also, Carlee's been on the CAPRA board for just over 12 months now. And we'll talk about all the work that they've done in the last 12 months to kind of get organized and push the sport forward and make this thing happen. But because she was on the board, there were a lot of lessons learned from the Canadian kind of delegation and the team members that shot the match in Italy.
Yes.
The rimfire match in Italy last year, and kind of from an organizational perspective, having more structure. And one of the things that they came away with was the need for team captains that didn't shoot.
Yes.
That weren't competing, and I can let you talk about that more. But really, that was our other role down there. We were selected to be his team. We were nominated. We were already down there, so it made a lot of sense, and we were familiar with the sport, obviously, shooting it and everything. And
I'm on the board and had so much to do with the organization and knowing all of the team members and what would go into these kinds of things. But to be really honest with you, I said to Josh Botha, who is on the board with me, but he was the captain and competing in Italy last year. And we weren't even through the opening ceremonies, and I don't know how he did it. And every day I would go to bed at night and I would turn to Van and say, I am so glad I'm not competing. And by the end of it, I looked at Josh and I said, that was so unfair that I have no idea how you were able to do both of those things. It was honestly an impossible ask So being able to take that off the plate of the people on Team Canada, so all they had to think about was just show up and shoot. That was all they had to think about. Anything else could just be taken care of by somebody else, and that they could focus on competing to the best of their abilities. To be able to do that, honestly, I'm grateful that we were given that opportunity, but I'm so glad that we were there to be able to do that, because honestly, I don't know how anybody on the team could have balanced something like that. And I mean, I think we'll dive into just kind of how the competition worked and those kinds of things, and how we had to manage resources, and some of the hilarious stories and snafus, and
There was a lot of fun.
oh, I need this, and oh, I need that, and just things that were kind of hilarious.
But if you think about it, I mean, it was a team of 30 people, 30
Yeah.
shooters, 30 competitors, right? So anytime you imagine
We sent a full roster.
of 30 people, there's going to be things that happen at any given time that you need somebody to go run here, run there, do this, get on the phone, whatever. And there were some really, really good examples of teamwork as well throughout the week that, I think we were all extremely proud of. The fact that, Carlee said this many times, but this is the height of an individual sport, right? This is the peak of how far you can go as a competitive PRS style shooter. But the fact that you can now take a whole bunch of people competing in an individual sport and turn them into a team and think of like a team and compete as a team, I think the end result showed what's possible with all the team placements and second and third places that were achieved as working together as a team, right?
So that was a huge goal of the board. That eventually Van and I were the ones that took that goal on. I mean, even just having to attend meetings with the IPRF or deal with if a shooter had a dispute with a range officer, they didn't want that shooter to be dealing with it. Call us in, we'll take care of it. You get ready for your next stage, or any of those types of things.
And we had a couple examples where we had to come in and argue some points on behalf of our team, and a couple of shooters that got some warnings with it where it wasn't warranted, and that kind of stuff, and some other potential DQs and things like that we had to go and argue and make our case at the end of the day, and
provide feedback to the match directors
and got some things
as well.
And got some things reversed, which was good. So but the main point was that the shooter didn't have to argue that on their behalf. They didn't stress about it. You knew we were handling it. We got their backs. Take care of it. You just focus on getting ready for the next stage, and then shoot that next stage as fast as you can.
I mean, how much of this we all know is a mental game. And so having that hanging over your head instead of thinking about everything you need to do for your pre-stage setup and all of those things.
And they were going through things fast.
Oh, it was lickety split. Like there was, what were they, 2-minute par times?
No, they were
just shy.
Part times aside, they had 2 minutes from when the first person got to the stage. So if they didn't move together, the first person, they'd like the ROs would right away if the stage was empty. They're like, okay, your 2 minutes of prep starts now.
They'd finished the stage brief. You already knew in order effectively, and they're like, your 2 minutes starts now.
And as soon as that person was done, they didn't have 2 minutes. They're like, you're up next.
They were
in the hole. You go.
Rifling people through. So I guess we'll say too, like on days 1 and 3, every division except for open was shooting. And so for Canada, we had 24 people shooting that day. And then on days 2 and 4, open was shooting, and we had 6 people. But those were squads of 11, whereas on days 1 and 3, they were squads of 8. So they're just rifling through. And it was hard. Like, our country did fine with a lot of that. There were a lot of countries that were just like not prepared for it. There were a lot of jokes about the French, because when they hosted it in France in 2022, they had a 1-hour mandatory lunch break. And they're like, hey boys, how about we shoot a couple stages and stop for some coffee and things like that.
Take a 45-minute coffee break. Shoot 2 more stages, take an hour lunch break, shoot 2 more stages, then take some more coffee.
Very European of them.
They were a little bit, we kind of joked that, we went through with German efficiency, but
it was good. So overall,
American hustle.
There was
American hustle.
And
North American hustle.
At the end of the day, I think as match directors, I think they were trying to get things moving before the high afternoon heat and wind kicked in.
So
I mean, we were already seeing high winds to begin with in certain days. So, I mean, we were getting highs of like 35 Celsius at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
So you had to be on stage at 6:45 a.m. and shooting would start anywhere between 7 and 7:15. And because they wanted you out of there by like 2 or so before it got crazy hot. And there were days when I was like, oof, some of these northern countries, I'm not an alarmist, but I thought there was a couple guys from Finland that I was like, they are sitting in the shade. I made sure they had electrolytes, made sure they were covered in sunscreen and all of these things. But I'm like, this is, oof, I don't know. And then Vance on one of the guys coming down the mountain later, and he's like, that guy does not look good. I was like, that's the guy I was telling you about. Like, he's like, if it's one more degree. I was like, your thick northern blood cannot handle this.
But
Like,
it's funny because there were lots of conditions that were also factors as part of this as far as weather goes. I mean,
Elevation.
altitude, elevation was huge. I mean, for us in Calgary, not that big a deal. It's only a couple of 100 feet difference. But for guys from the kind of sea level countries and coastal areas, it was a big adjustment.
How dry how dry the air was. I mean, we're used to very low humidity here in Alberta. So this was a bit of an Alberta advantage match in some ways. So that didn't affect us, but that was hard for a lot of people because, again, a lot of coastal dwellers and the sea level people. So the lack of humidity, the altitude, the heat, the wind. Some people just don't shoot in the wind that we're used to shooting in the prairies. I mean, there were guys like, you're cleaning your glass after almost every stage. There's guys using eye drops because their eyes are so full of dust.
We actually had one of our team members for Team Canada wear his contact lenses on one of the stages near the end of the day. His contact lens was so dry that his eye was couldn't see out of the scope, right? So
it was just
because of your eyes vibrating because it's so dry. It just happens, right?
And dust in everything. So MDT was really generous, and for Team Canada, they I don't know if you saw in some of the pictures that were online, but everybody had these like red rifle covers, and they were a rain cover, but really they were meant for dust because dust got in everything.
And we saw
like you're cleaning dust out of your ears and you're brushing it out of your teeth at the end of the day.
Coming out of your pores.
Oh my goodness.
And it's like that fine silty moon dust stuff. You step in it and it just goes.
It's in everything.
Yeah. So
Conditionally,
it was definitely one of the toughest places where you could ever host a match. The terrain, there was not a lot of landmarking that you could do. I mean, you could do some, but it was really difficult.
Some of the stages were really tight too, so you couldn't really. You had to jostle for position to spot, to even scout out the stage and things like that. So add all of that in before you think of the difficulty of a course of fire of a world championship. I mean, they had to use heavy equipment drones to put some of the steel in.
Man, most of the targets were placed by heavy equipment drones. So what they would do is, we're talking to the match directors, they're saying they had the geo-tagging feature of some of those LRF binos, and they would literally, with the app, geo-tag where they want to place the target, lays it, mark the GPS coordinate, and then send that to the drone. And the drone would literally go carry the steel targets with the T-posts and the hangers and everything and just drag it over, put it in that spot, and then somebody would have to climb up the side of a mountain like a goat and then hammer it in and then hang the target and then come back down. And that's how they set up the match.
It was incredible. Honestly, like Michael Beamer created an incredibly fair course of fire for a level playing field for all the countries in the world. Honestly, like, I mean, it was adverse conditions. It was difficult, but I mean, this is a world championship. I mean, you gotta make it tough. You gotta make it so, it's a worlds. You come to play. So it was awesome.
It was a really cool experience.
Yeah, it was pretty epic.
And I'm just kind of sad that I didn't get to shoot it.
So that was hard for a lot of the people that came with. Like, we had what I call like the wags, like the wives and girlfriends that had come along. It's a mostly male team, right? That kind of come along, and they're great and they're extremely helpful, but they can't spot because they don't know, they don't shoot the sport and those kinds of things. But any of the spouses or family members who came along that do shoot, they're just sitting there and they're like
I really
it was so hard for them. At least there were demo days. But
that's fun.
So with the targets, what were those? Were they all like a standard shape, or did they kind of go with animal shaped targets, or
all of the above?
Like that?
All was a mix.
Yeah.
So it's not just there's a blue square. There's some variety to it.
They had some gopher shapes in there. They had like rams. They had pretty much everything. They had diamond shaped, circles, squares.
No corn.
IPSC, no corn as far as I know yet. A little shout out to Jono and Tabor. But no, I think overall it was a pretty good mix. I think all the target sizes, like nobody really complained that the targets were like extremely too small. They were all pretty fair size for the level of match that it was. And to
like
Chris's comment, all the targets were great. I mean, they were they did have placards.
Yes, every target had a placard.
Every target had a placard with
Okay.
the stage number. It didn't say like stage 17, A, B, C, D. It didn't give you the order. It just said 17.
Yeah.
So
Figure it
you
out.
have to figure it out based on the course of fire, and you have to memorize all your sequencing properly.
Yeah, we had to before opening ceremonies, there was a meeting with all the team captains in the IPRF, and we were the people, the match directors were just like, oh my God, you two. We know them. So I think they were kind of expecting it, but Team Canada gave us a list of questions. And other than, I think, 2 other people, we asked the most questions in the entire meeting.
Because we knew our team was
going to ask for it. So we had to answer questions about the sequencing, or it's like, one of the things that came up was like, there was a language barrier. And I said, at least 1/3 of Team Canada, including myself, speak French. So if there's a language barrier with any French-speaking countries, everyone in our delegation has been voluntold to help, or things like that. But target sequencing, what if you get out of sequence? What does that look like? All of those things, because again, at this level of match, those things are important. I mean, a lot of those things were things that we tried to incorporate in our match, the Apex Rocky Mountain Challenge that we hosted this summer, with the elevation, just to try and prepare as many people as possible, especially people who maybe haven't competed outside of Canada before or shot much kind of at that level. We didn't want them to get there and be like, oh shit. Like we wanted to give them at least a taste of it, target panning or those kinds of things, and a lot of the sequencing stuff that maybe we haven't seen at some of the
and our sequencing was child's play compared to what was down there, right? So I mean, like they were doing stuff like engage target 1, 3, 4, 7, 5, 6 in that order, where we would usually go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like keep it simple.
But guys memorize stuff. I watched one of our open shooters, Dave Garriani, walk up to a stage, and the RO is like, do you understand the course of fire? And he's like, oh, it's this, and then this, move this. And I was like, what just happened? And I'm like, he's dialed in. It's in his brain. It is memorized. And I'm like, that's what you have to do at this level. And I was like, no.
I can't remember anything.
But he recited it.
I literally have to write my stuff down on the armboard.
I would be walking by squads of people and they would be reciting these things to memorize it. And I'm like, you're shooting 10 stages in a day. Like, you got to forget that and then move on to the next stage and then remember all of this again. I'm like, again, this level of competition is absolutely incredible to watch.
Yeah, it was a fun match to watch as far as that was concerned. And then also just the camaraderie between the countries. And I mean, it basically, if you've ever been to any kind of PRS match in Canada or the US, you've been to this match as well.
You know, where it feels like a homecoming and like a family reunion, and like all your best friends are there, and then you make all these new best friends and it's amazing. And then you come home to like all these Facebook friend requests and all that. That's what this week was, but on a global scale.
People were sharing equipment. People were sharing
win calls
and
help
off
and
the
just
clock,
off the clock. Yes.
Yeah, because it's in with the IPRF rules, the same as PRS Pro Series rules. Like, there's no coaching on the clock.
No.
If you get out of sequence, it is on you to get back on sequence. They will only call impact if it's the correct target and the correct sequence of target. They will only call an impact. If they don't call an impact, it's a miss. So
and you can't.
They will not tell you how to get back on.
And you have to be quiet enough when the competitor is shooting, because if, let's say, I'm standing there spotting and I said impact, but it was loud enough for anyone else to hear me, that shooter could get disqualified.
Yeah, and you get kicked off.
And you get kicked off stage.
Yeah. So
what?
It was the rules were stringent and they were sticky, but I mean, again, they have to be. This is a world championship.
Yeah.
This isn't like a backyard match or a club match or any of those kinds of things. So those kinds of things were really important. But again, like, that also increases the nerves and the anxiety for a shooter too. So
yeah, it's not a casual sit back and kind of chat off the line. It's a lot of focus, I'd imagine.
Everybody's marveling at all of the candy in America.
Yeah, what were some of the things that other countries got to gawk at that they normally wouldn't get to see?
Everybody was kind of gawking at what I call Ryan McLean candy, because he's the one that introduced me to it. But it's like, there's these gummies that are like covered in nerds. Nerds makes them, but they're
gummy clusters.
Yeah, those. So everyone had those.
It
was like a whole thing.
And everybody called them Ryan
McLean candy, because I started that. Like, Ryan's like, just stop.
Speaking of Ryan McLean, he had a lot of people wanting to come take selfies.
Oh my goodness, it was so funny. Yeah, so MDT had a demo tent for the first couple days, and we were just up the hill from them. And I'd turn around and I'd see all these people, and they're like, "Oh, Ryan McLean." And somebody asked me, like, "Did you meet Ryan McLean?" I was like, "Yeah, it's fine. Like, I know him. It's okay." And so I went up to him and I was like, "Can I take a selfie with you? I saw you on YouTube." He's like, "Just go away." It's like, Carlee, you're a loser. He didn't say that,
But it's
Yeah.
funny because, obviously he's known through the MDT, like the YouTube videos,
Yeah.
and all the shorts and all the stuff, all the content that they create. So people from all over the world that had never seen him before in person,
him and Andre Salupka from Team Canada. He also shoots for Team Apex. And this has happened to us at trade shows, especially abroad, because he would have a lot of European equipment, and people would be like, "Oh, Apex, Andy on the range," and I'm like, "Yes, that's us." And so that kind of became a thing, and then we'll have to share it with you guys. But he and Madeline made like a little short of that, and it was hilarious.
Of Andy on the range.
Of Andy on the range. So just like those little things of like social media personalities, and like who people knew. Like Frank Galley was there too. There's people
From Cypress Side.
People taking pictures with him. He was wearing a red shirt and talking to all of us right as like opening ceremonies was beginning.
Right,
We're beginning. So we're like, is Frank Galley now Canadian and walking with Team Canada? So
yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, it was a good time.
So I just had a quick question. Were the Australians there, and did they have to hold their kestrels upside down to get the right reading, or like how did that work? Backwards? Okay.
Yeah. But oh my gosh, the Aussies, they travel in packs. Someone's like, "Oh, I didn't see anybody from Australia in my squad." I'm like, "Oh, they travel in packs. Like they go and they spot in packs."
Like a dingoes.
Yeah, it's just they're hilarious though. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they are. I can vouch for that.
They were
so it's good to hear that everyone came together. Despite we're competing against each other, but at the same time, we all want to see everyone do the best that they can do. Like that's good to see, even international cooperation wise.
Well, and you have to think too. I mean, so we had one of the largest teams. We sent a full roster of 30 shooters.
I think there were only 3.
There were only 3 countries that did that. Some got close, but very few sent the whole roster. So, and the way that they do squatting, like you don't get to pick your squads. There's usually one person from every country, or however many countries. You're the only person from your country, usually, with a couple exceptions, or the only person in your division from your country in a squad. We had, I think, 3 or 4 squads where we did have 2 members of Team Canada, but they were in different divisions, like Limited and Ladies, or Male Ellie and Factory, or something like that. But generally speaking, you're only person from your country in a squad of people. So
that's
and watching that kind of international cooperation was really cool too. But I think it kind of speaks to the sport and the community in general as well. Because I mean, we see that at local and national level matches all the time, where somebody needs a bag, a rear support bag, or somebody needs a pump pillow, or here, use my bipod, or use my tripod, or use this, or use that, or you've never seen that gear, here, try this out. You were literally seeing this at the highest level of the sport as well. Even though people, like you said, might like competing directly against one another for points and for scores. And sometimes it came down. I think Al or somebody, missed 3rd place? Adam Glatt in Factory missed missed the podium by 1 impact, and he had the tiebreaker. So it's just one of those things, like if he gave that a piece of advice to somebody that he was competing against, and that guy beat him out for the podium by 1 point, that's just the way it goes. But you're still going to do the right thing and help that guy.
And the scores were tight. They were really tight. But I mean, you also have how many people competing too. But
that's also another question. Altogether, in all categories, how many competitors were there roughly?
I think it was 288.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It's a big match.
That's a big match.
That is
I was thinking 181, but that was the winning score.
Yeah,
and out of how many countries roughly were there?
22.
22. Okay.
22. Some people are saying 28, but I think it was 22.
We'll have to double check that, but I was pretty
double check it. It was somewhere between like 20 and 30. Like there was quite a number of different countries. I mean, we were a roster of 30. Hungary was a roster of 1. Somebody was like, "Oh, I want to get a photo with the Hungarian team." I was like, "Well, he's over there." But
That's
which it did
that's
too.
awesome. You still showed up.
Yeah, I mean, the Czechs didn't send a ton of people, but or some of the countries did have smaller rosters, but it's growing. There were countries that people didn't expect to do very well. We were one of them. Namibia, PRS Namibia, and NAPRA, the Namibian Precision Rifle Association.
They won second in open, second team
in
after
open.
the US.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It didn't exist last time.
No, they didn't. I was one of the only people that knew about it, but that was because a friend of ours that I met at Iwa was telling me, she's like, you watch, this is an up and coming nation. No one sees it coming. They're running crazy centerfire PRS matches and they are good shooters. And I was like, okay, like that sounds cool. And sure enough, like Namibia came to play and they did well. They're also all super awesome, which was great. But again, I mean, 2 years ago, PRF didn't exist in some of these countries. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when the IPRF was founded in 2019, kind of 2020, the IPRF founded so that there was an actual international governing body so that people could get permission to own these rifles and practice this sport in their country.
Because before then, we were actually talking to Marcus, and he was saying this as well.
Marcus is the
Marcus
president of the IPRF.
from Sweden, and president of the IPRF, a good friend of ours now. But he was saying that, and we've had this conversation many times with him about like why it was important to organize the sport from the top down. You need a governing body at an international level that is recognized globally, that has national level associations as well, that has clear set of rules, that has clear governing body, governance, laws, rules, all that stuff, bylaws. Because when they write letters to governments and saying, we have competitors in your country that need to practice their craft and own this equipment, they were able to get laws changed in a lot of these countries. They didn't have 22 countries in France last time for centerfire. Now they have 20. I think they had half that. So now they have 22. I think the next goal is 30. Then the next goal is 70.
And it's going to be even more for rimfire because you don't
That's
need the
huge.
space that you do for centerfire. It's just easier in general for people to get permitting for things like that. But without a governing body with a standardized set of rules, you don't get insurance, you don't get these permits, you don't get these things with the ability, like you said, to practice your craft. And so just what, I mean, the International Precision Rifle Federation has managed to do in such a short time and to grow this in less than 5 years, honestly, is absolutely incredible.
It started with a bunch of dudes that just shot a match in Ireland sitting in a pub at 11:30 and they wouldn't serve them beer yet because it wasn't noon yet.
So they drank coffee, made some decisions before they started.
Yeah, and they're just like, we need to do something. The sport is amazing, it's growing so fast, but we need a way to kind of corral everything and bring everybody together internationally, and they did it. And I think we as Canadians have to be thankful for that, because now we have a governing body in Canada that is associated with that organization that allows us to send Canadians to these world events. Because
I think people don't understand the important role that CAPRA does play, like the Canadian Precision Rifle Association.
And the Canadian Precision Rifle Association is a non-profit organization this year.
Yeah, we got nonprofit status. Once we've had our nonprofit status for a full year, we're able to apply for Sport Canada funding. We're able to do a lot of other things with our fundraising and support our athletes at the World Championship level, obviously an international competition, but also it gives us the opportunity to start helping build this sport out from the ground up at a grassroots level, at every level of development. I mean, people are always like, what does CAPRA really do? And I said, we are the Hockey Canada of precision rifle shooting. That's the best way that I can equate it.
Good metaphor.
So, but also, I mean, CAPRA is important for Canadians to be able to compete in international competition.
Yeah, because no Canadian will be allowed to go to World Championships by the put on by the IPRF if their roster name is not submitted by CAPRA. So that's really, at the end of the day, it's like the IOC letting the Canadian COC decide who they're sending as their delegation to the Olympics. It's the same thing. It's like, so CAPRA has to decide who's the delegation that we're sending to the IPRF World Championships next year. And it's going to be in the UK for rimfire. And then the year after that, wherever it's going to be for the next centerfire, and so on and so on. Right. So,
so without CAPRA, Canadians would not be permitted to compete in the IPRF World Championships. So,
you're the structure that allows it to happen.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of important.
Yeah.
Just a little
Also-
bit, yeah.
And then also, I think, to Carly's other point, I think the goal of CAPRA going forward is the mandate, I think, is to develop the program further from the grassroots and have a path of graduations for shooter who start in this sport, who start, let's say, at the rimfire level, then work through and elevate their game through the rimfire level. And they want to do better and they want to do better. And then they can get to those higher levels, and they can maybe make the rimfire team, or if they choose to switch to the center fire, and then they do both, and then they do they can try to qualify for one or the other or both again. Like there's an opportunity to really grow this sport in Canada, to kind of organize things in a way that it allows people to shoot as many matches as they want to shoot whatever, and they can choose which matches they want to shoot or not. If they want to try to go for national team qualification, they can. That's been laid out already what those qualification standards are. And the more matches we have in Canada, the qualify for that, the better, right?
Absolutely. And I agree with Dan Castillo's point. It helps legitimize the sport for non-shooters. It's like not just a bunch of people going out to the range and shooting at steel just for fun, for a hobby. I mean, there is that component to it, but when you are participating in something like this, it's like, no, this is a real thing. This is a real sport. We're not just some backwoods group of people just, shooting at tin cans kind of thing. Like this is
not that there's anything wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's
no.
We all love doing
we all like doing that, but it really does legitimize it. So yeah.
Also, I just want to kind of put it in perspective. So Jonathan Bergen commented, how many estimated freedom seeds were released back into the wild? And Adam chimes in, following 20 stages over an average of 9.5 shots fired per stage times 280 shooters. That's 53,000 rounds approximately.
That doesn't include demo day.
Or
doesn't include demo day.
And a lot of people did a lot of practice. Sorry.
A lot of practice. Yes. How many people went to the zero board more than once? All those kinds of things. Yeah.
I'd say probably closer to 60 would be.
I would say
people from all around the world. That's a pretty impressive feat when you put the numbers to it like that.
And not a single safety incident.
Not one.
Mm-hmm.
That's the important thing.
Looked down the hill and scraped her arm.
Oh yeah, without a gun.
She was just a spectator.
Mm-hmm.
The athletes were fine. That's what really matters.
At the end of the day, I think, politically speaking, that's a huge accomplishment as well, right? Because, I mean, you can go to somebody and say, hey, there were 60,000 rounds fired down range that weekend, and not a single person got hurt because this is the safest thing you can do, right? And
yeah.
So when it came to equipment, was there equipment that came from other countries, like brands you haven't really heard of, or things that were surprising to you, or is it mainly North American equipment that kind of dominates it?
Mostly the same kind of stuff, but there were some oddball things that, I mean, not as common here. Obviously, some people are running Accuracy International production rifles, which is not very common here. Pretty much everybody was running MPA for production category or whatever else.
What was Eric running for factory? Like,
oh yeah, he was running a SIG Cross.
Yeah, whereas like for us, factory, just about everybody shoots MPA, but it's a lot harder to get in Europe, and their import costs and all of those kinds of things. So yeah, they're shooting like SIG or those kinds of things. So there were and
as far as rifles went, there wasn't a ton of like really weird stuff or literally different. Like as far as optics, it was the same usual players. We did see some equipment have a harder time with the dusts as far as like bolt action rifles went. So there were some actions that had a bit more difficulty with the tighter tolerances and not necessarily having the better kind of like capability to keep the dirt and dust out of the chambers and the raceways and all that stuff. So that happened. We saw a bunch of scopes go down. Thankfully, there was not a single Apex that went down. And then there was a bunch of equipment, like I think Adam mentioned in the comments, the Calypso is the new hotness. I mean, Calypso's been around. We've been aware of it because we're working with them on a project. Yeah. But
Calypso's it was like, they're brands you haven't heard of. I'm like, well, we're bad people to ask because we go to all the international trade shows. So
we see a bunch of stuff. But I mean, Calypso is kind of cool because it's a ultrasonic wind meter that we're going to be integrating with one of our products. So that's going to be pretty cool. But it's just a little device that literally sits at the top of your plate or whatever on your tripod, or you can have it up high and then wirelessly measures. Like it has a directional like meter, like the Kestrel, right? You don't have to point at the wind. It tells you wind direction and wind speed, and it's low power Bluetooth, and it just connects to your devices and it gives you a reading. So
That's
I
game
mean, I don't know
changer.
how useful it was at somewhere like Cameo because the wind was going about 7 different directions downrange. So
I mean, I guess shameless plug, but one of the things that we did see people doing, because we had a lot of people come to us asking for them, were a lot of shooters like to put a red dot on the diving board, and our Atom red dot is nice and low profile, and a lot of people threw them on at the last minute.
we had a schwack of them.
We had a
that we
schwack of
called.
them, but everyone's like, "Do you still have any?" Because target acquisition, when like how Chris had mentioned, all the targets are gray, and target acquisition at Cameo is difficult
Because
and
the terrain looks the same everywhere you look.
and the multi-reticle system in it wasn't just the dot, like you would use the circle part of the reticle, because it just makes it that much easier to acquire your target, and so you're not burning time.
So the big thing is like I put that on our demo gun on the Wednesday. Was it Wednesday, Thursday? Wednesday, Thursday. I don't even know what days it was. Wednesday, Thursday, we had the demo days that pretty much every country sent all their delegations through the demos after they checked in and they went to the zero board. So I had the Atom on top on my diving board in front of my scope, and I had it on the circle reticle. And the way we kind of collimated it was like I looked down range, and I had, as soon as I had in my field of view at 20x, I had the target in my field of view. I would basically just adjust and zero the reticle of the Atom red dot to show me that circle. So basically, if you find the target in the red dot and you put it inside the circle, it'll effectively be in your field of view at 20x in your scope. So you literally like get onto your chin like this, you find it, and you get back and you're on target, right? So
we saw a lot of people doing that.
Yeah.
Because I know that the jury is out on whether or not that's like an extra piece of gear that you want or any of those kinds of things. But we saw people from all around the world doing it.
That's the first thing I do with my Atom was put it on top of my diving board. It works, especially with the open reticle. Like, okay, you have reticle, your eyes are focused on it, and then you can see through it to actually see the target.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It doesn't obscure it, right? So that was the point.
No.
Yeah.
All the cool kids are doing it.
Yeah.
Speaking of Apex Optics, let's read some sponsor ads.
I guess
there, Mike.
I guess we could. Well, folks, this wonderful broadcast is brought to you by some wonderful folks such as EM Precision Rifles in Leduc, Alberta, building Canada's finest precision rifles. Find Shane and Steve on Facebook, Instagram, and on their website at emprifles.ca.
We're also brought to you by Bolt Action Coffee, bringing specialty coffee to the precision shooting world. Order coffee and merchandise at boltactioncoffee.com.
And we don't want to forget, callsign 66, Canada's best rifle training. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Book a course now at callsign66.ca and follow them on Instagram at callsign66, all words, and on Facebook at C/S66.
We're also brought to you by Odell Engineering. Pick up a Canuck shotgun or Bagheera rifle from your local distributor and tell them Phil sent you. Look them up on Instagram, Flakebook, or on their website at Odell Engineering Ltd. Also, check out the new Canuck Wrangler in the 357 mag. We saw them at TACCOM. They were hot. I suggest you go pick yourself one up.
I suggest you buy the tactical one. And Apex Optics, you may have heard of them. We might know about them. When you buy Apex, precision comes standard. Check out all the fine competition rifle scopes, red dots, and binos at apexoptics.co. The red dots have arrived, as we just discussed. Get yours today, the Atom and the Fusion.
We're also brought to you by Ribstone Gunsmithing. Craftsmanship done right. Contact Oscar at ribstonegunsmithing.ca and breathe life back into any firearm.
And of course, we have the Shooting Edge in Calgary, Alberta. Home of the Sterling Arms Mark III. Check out our video on YouTube from TACCOM. And indoor range training courses, a new 6-lane axe throwing bay, and the One Shot One Spill Cafe. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, and on their website at theshootingedge.com.
We're also brought to you by March Scopes Canada. The Dion optical design line of rifle scopes has a scope for all your hunting and shooting needs. Find Doug and Niza at marchscopes.ca.
There, bills are paid.
Now, back to it.
So what do you guys want to talk about?
So, I mean, you guys just kind of, I can tell it's cool because you can tell the energy that you guys are.
The passion is there.
You
Because we
guys
came
are
home
coming
and
down off a
slept.
proverbial high.
It was a
It
high.
was,
It really felt like
honestly.
it. Yeah. I mean, and we were like just energized on the drive home.
whole
We drove
time.
back for 2 days. So I mean, it's almost
Mm-hmm.
20-hour drive there and back. So
Yeah.
we drove down. But the whole time we were talking about all the awesome things that happened and how glad we were that we were there. And we literally felt like there was no other place on earth that we needed to be at than there. It was so important for us to be there. It felt like home, like it always does when we're in a match, but it just is so much more like a global level.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw so many friends from all over the world.
We don't get
from
the chance to
industry,
do that very often.
From industry, from the USPRA. I mean, we've been talking to those guys for, over a year and just kind of coordinating with all the things that needed to happen. And I mean, Greg Bell, Michael Beamer, Ken Wheeler, Matt Steiner, everybody, Guy DeMarco, like everybody,
The Powers family.
the Powers family that went and put in untold numbers of hours and weeks and months of their years. I don't think anybody will ever understand how much work it took to put that event on. Cameo shooting facility is on its own, I think 30 full-time employees and 150 volunteers.
So there was
Full-time.
volunteers doing like shuttle drives. You have to think there's 3 ROs per stage, all volunteered for this. But somebody's got to coordinate them. Somebody's got to feed them. Somebody's got to make sure they've got shirts and gear and timers and radios.
I mean,
and
Boyd
all of
Lender
those
and
things.
his crew.
Oh my gosh, he was driving around on a dirt bike. So Cameo was set up. There's 3 separate ranges that are running simultaneously for this event to house that many people at 20 stages. And Boyd Linder from Utah was going around on a dirt bike from stage to stage, and he's uploading scores manually into Practice Score so everybody back home can watch live scoring.
I mean, he had like a Wi-Fi booster pack and cell phone packs on his backpack on his dirt bike, and he had a massive antenna that you would attach to the thing, and he would go from stage to stage, like ripping down, synchronizing tablets to the RO tablets, and scores were getting uploaded live.
Shooter's Mindset podcast, broadcasting live everywhere with their Starlink. They broadcast opening ceremonies, closing ceremonies, all 4 days of competition, both demo days. They came around to the vendors and were talking to officials and all of those people. So to be able to watch that back home, I mean, we had people from Team Canada whose families were watching that were just so excited because what an incredible thing. I mean, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for a lot of people. And this is the Olympics of our sport. So we all sit and we love to watch Team Canada like we all did when they rolled into Paris and watch, the triumphs and the heartache and the stories and all of the things that come out of that. But this was that for our sport.
It was super cool.
Which was honestly, it was incredible. The USPRA did an incredible job. They set the standard for something like this. It was a PRS Pro Series match like you've never seen and on steroids. It just at this level to be able to feed everyone every day, water, like ZCO sponsored water, but there's cooler at every stage, but coolers need ice. Nobody knows more about trying to find wholesale ice than this person right here. Just all of the silly little things you don't think about, swag bags, because people are coming from out of country, the ability to ship ammo to a central location or to purchase things ahead of like from vendors to have waiting for you so that you don't have to pay the VAT or just all of those different things.
A lot of international shooters took advantage of that.
They did. Yeah. A lot of people went home with a second suitcase. But honestly, like just to coordinate something of this level of that magnitude every single day. I mean, they
had Chick-fil-A 4 days out of 5.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I mean, there were days where they were short volunteers. And so whoever's there, it's all hands on deck. The first day of competition, they were short shuttle drivers. And Van spent the entire day driving up and down the mountain in a side-by-side, taking squads of people wherever they needed to go.
Or spectators or ROs. Whoever.
Or, I mean, I ran lunches up the side of a mountain a couple of times. And that was outside of all of the hilarious tending that we did to Team Canada. So, and our team APEX internationally as well. So,
what was that kind of shake your head moment when you had to bring somebody something, or what was kind of a funny one maybe?
Well, day one, I was jolted out of bed with someone forgot their mags and can't find them. Are they at the house? And I'm like, is this your first match? So it turns out, no, they're in the truck. It's fine.
Okay.
But somebody had to run down
Down
from
from
the
the
truck
truck.
because they were all the way at the top of the mountain, and it's about a 20-minute ride each way
Yeah.
with side by side.
To get
Holy.
this.
Because I mean, this stuff was spread out far.
It was
Like,
really
the scale of it is
yeah, it's
it's
not like
indescribable.
what we're used to, 20 stages in a row and whatever. No, the scale of this is absolutely
So
unreal.
on the first day of competition, which was the Friday, when Carlee mentioned that I was running with the buggy and the side by side, like up and down the mountain, that's literally like 20 to 25 minutes each way.
And it's
up
winding,
and
and you feel like you're on safari, and it's like he was
Mm.
so covered in dust by the end of the day. Like it was
Yeah.
absolutely.
But you know, in
ridiculous.
between those moments, I was running stuff to our team, or I would check in with somebody while I was up at the mountain.
Or I'd be like, hey, are you down at the parking lot right now? Before you pick anybody up, I need you to go and get this from so-and-so's truck. I mean, there are some people that were smart enough. They're like, I'm just going to leave my truck unlocked because if somebody needs to go down, like somebody had to go, like a rifle went down. Or,
Mhm.
hey, who has cleaning supplies in their truck because somebody's got a whole bunch of dust in their action and we need to get that out.
Or something's not extracting properly.
Something's
or
not
whatever.
extracting, or
Yeah.
someone's stomach is upset and needs Tums, or
Just
somebody
little things too, right?
electrolytes. I'm like, I walked around with a purse with like some first aid things, chamber flags, electrolytes, and candy. Sometimes, or it was just like, so and so, can you just run up the mountain? Because I think so and so just needs like a little pep talk, or can you just go shoot the shit
Mhm.
with somebody because they just need to like be a
Yeah,
little more
or
chill.
just get out of their head.
Or
right?
just get out of their head, or like just any of those kinds of things. Or hey, have you left the house yet? Can you stop by my Airbnb and pick up my ammo?
like
And it
boxes
of ammo. And in the meantime, someone else I know is shooting my load. So can you get somebody to go and get 20 rounds from them to bring to me in the meantime, and then we'll redistribute once you get here. Things that just ridiculous things.
There's just all
Um,
sorts of stuff like that, right?
yeah.
And that's kind of was part of the deal that
Yeah.
we signed up for, being nominated as team
Yeah.
captains. Like we knew that was the job, and that's what we were prepared to come and do.
Mhm.
But I think too, I mean, some people, they don't know each other on the team. I got to know every single member of that 30-person roster, but you're on day one of shooting or day two, and you don't really know anybody that well. And you're like
Yep.
having some issues or one of those kinds of things. And it's like, okay, I can see you're having issues. So I'm like, Van, can you go deal with that? But then Van had to go deal with something else. And I'm like, who's around that can help me? And I was like, hey, we got to take off. This is how far we've gotten with this issue, because we got to go to run to another range.
For example, I think what Carly's talking about is like there was a competitor's gun was having issues. We weren't sure if it was scope or gun, or if something needs to be tightened down or torqued down. There was like the gun wasn't holding zero or whatever.
So Van's like, go to the zero range,
here's the crony, like check
Check
your
your
speed,
dope,
check your dope.
figure it all out. And then if it's still an issue and he's like, I still can't figure this
and then I
out.
like got called on the radio, like I got to
he
go
had,
somewhere else.
he had to go deal with something else. And so I'm like, who's here? And people who are there are probably spotting, or they're doing something else, or maybe
So we
they're
pull them
scouting
off
for
the
the next
line.
day. So I'm pulling them off the line, and I'm like, I need you to go and deal with this for somebody.
And then
But
they're like, yep.
yeah, absolutely, got it. But you don't know until you're told that you need to step in and help, because the stages are far apart. You can't always see anybody. You can't be like, oh, hey, come over here.
Yeah,
Because
come on over.
Smoke signals.
smoke paint, like it was,
Yeah.
they're just all of those little
I
things.
think like the
but-
big part of the job was really just coordination and just being aware of everything that was happening at all times, so that you could send the right resources to the right
Yes.
places, right? And then, or need to go run here, grab that, then do this,
Yeah.
and then
and knowing who's available as a resource too. So having like effectively a single point of contact, I'm like, okay, I know who's there. I know who's a couple stages away. I also know everyone's gear list. So somebody had an issue with their action, and I was like, someone is 2 stages away that I know shoots that exact same action, and they're a spectator. And so I'm going to send them down there until I can get there with cleaning supplies or something like that. So that's the other thing, is just
and that
kind
was
of,
very helpful.
that was knowing who's there, where they are at all times, and where they're starting. That was one thing that like Madeline did for me, is like she made me a list of squads that everybody was in, and I knew their starting points each day. So I knew where to find them. I knew who was close. I also went through the roster, and knowing as many people as we do internationally, it was like, okay, so you don't know these people, but here are the people that I know in your squad. Here's a little bit about them and those kinds of things. So you kind of have an idea going into this, instead of being like, wow, I'm going to spend the day with 7 strangers. I don't know how this is going to go. Maybe that guy's a dick. Like, it could go either way.
Yeah.
So just being able to manage those things, which help manage anxiety, knowing that someone's always got your back. I think helped a lot. And making sure that the team had each other's back was another thing. I mean, we saw a lot of things, and people just like self-sacrifice for their teammates.
There were a lot
there
of
were-
examples of Team Canada stepping up for each other in
Yeah.
huge ways and
honestly,
sacrificing the ability to pre-scout the next day's stages because that was allowed. Like you were able to go in if you weren't shooting on a particular day. They actually opened up for 3 hours the next set of stages that the other side had already seen, but you hadn't seen yet. So you're not allowed to bring your gun or rifle or
Okay, interesting.
props or anything really, but you're allowed to kind of take a look and try to find the targets and get your bearings on eeach stage and kind of because you already had the matchbook. And there were some people who,
Yeah.
you know, their spotter or their backup or their buddy, I guess, that we
Yeah.
kind of paired people up with. Halfway through the afternoon, like wasn't feeling good, had to go back and go lay down,
Yeah.
whatever. And
we don't need people falling off
and-
the mountain either.
and one of the team members was like, "Yeah, I'm there. I'm spot." It's like I was supposed to go over there and check out those other stages.
But
and I'm shooting
staying
tomorrow.
with him
They
and
stayed-
not leaving him was more
Yeah,
important.
never
to
leave
them.
your wingman.
Never leave your wingman. And it was like, no, the maple leaf matters more
Yeah,
at
that was
this
a huge
point.
thing.
And
And there was just so many examples
so many,
like that
like
too. Like
countless examples of that with the team. I mean, we had one person's rifle go down and another person let them use their backup rifle. And then at the end of the day, so that they were more comfortable going into their next day of shooting, took that rifle apart and put it in their own chassis and all those things.
and they're basically just cobbled together. And
cobbled together. There's a photo of 3 guys from Team Canada cobbling together a gun
at the range.
at the range, getting it zero, making sure everything was good. I mean, if you drove
Essentially
down,
a brand new system.
yeah, you had the ability to probably bring a backup rifle or bring extra things or that kind of stuff. But it was just like, someone's trigger's getting sensitive. Okay, do they have a backup trigger? I know I've got one in the truck. I know who else has a backup trigger. I know what parts list we have between all 30 people and where I can send what resources and what those things look like. It's because, I mean, you're going on to the next stage. What choice do you have? And the speed that they're getting people through.
I think in each competitor at each stage, I think on the days when they had like 8 or 10 people, I think they were getting through the stages in like between 35 and 40
minutes. Yeah. 45 minutes was long. 40 was the average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
so they
pretty
were hustling.
quick at that level.
Yeah. So
what
I mean,
was some of the mental coaching like? Obviously, you had to put your coach's hat on and give a little pep talk. What was that like for you as an individual? That, like, I don't know if you guys have any coaching backgrounds in other
a little
sports.
bit.
Yeah. I mean, I coached hockey. I coached soccer. It's kind of funny. Like, we both played competitive sports and stuff growing up. So the mental aspect of it is huge. I mean, my background is as a goaltender and a goalkeeper in soccer and hockey. So for me, it was like, I always call it the goldfish memory, which is always what I try to apply when I shoot as well, which is like, you have a 20-second memory of like whether you made the shot or not. It doesn't matter. Let's just focus on the next thing.
Yeah.
If you let in a bad goal, you can't just keep, thinking about that and you're going to keep letting in more bad goals. Right. So, the mental part of the game is huge. In this particular instance, like most of these people were pretty good about managing their own like mental state and kind of, they didn't really need a lot of pep talks. A lot of times there was a clear distinction between, and you kind of had to figure out based on personalities. We try to get to know people before the match quite well.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a kickoff party on the Monday night or sorry, the first night, whatever, that we were all together at our Airbnb. We had a pool, put on a big barbecue. Everybody had some drinks and relaxed a little bit. Then everybody, kind of got going.
And there was a day in between before shooting
Days
started.
in between, and then the
yeah.
ceremonies. And everybody relax and have some drinks and whatever. Kind of everybody get to know each other. So you kind of try to get a feel for everybody that's on the team. Really, there wasn't a ton to it, but a lot of times you had to decide whether to say anything or not say anything at all to somebody. Sometimes there are people that just like don't want any help. They're in their head. They're good. And other times you really have to kind of figure out, okay, what does this person need in this particular moment? Maybe it's just a witty, quick joke, or like, try to incentivize somebody like, hey, you have a good stage. We'll have some beers after, or I've got or whatever waiting
Pitcher of margaritas waiting for you.
Yeah.
Or even things like the number of times that, we said to people, this is a 2-day PRS match. It's a 2-day PRS match. You've only shot 3 stages. You have 7 stages left to go today. Who cares? One example that I used was in Wisconsin this year when we were at the NRL 22 national finale in June. There was a shooter he was like a top shooter in the US, had 1 impact on stage 1. And he walked away from that stage and he gave himself a little talk and he said, no more of this. And then he didn't drop another shot all day.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, sometimes it was just telling people that story. I'm like, it's just a 2-day match. It's a 2-day match.
Anybody can win a 1 day.
Anybody can win a 1-day
Yep.
match. I
Yeah.
said,
Mhm.
I should have a t-shirt that says that. Anybody can win a 1-day match. Some of it too, was managing, again, personalities and who you knew was going to get in somebody's head, who might come up and annoy people.
Mhm.
Sometimes I acted as a firewall. There were
Mhm.
competitors who I knew would be better off without anybody around them. If you're going to spot for scouting for tomorrow, that's great. Keep your distance. Like, this guy needs to stay in the zone and stay where he's at. He's got a good squad. He doesn't need your help. Please just keep your distance. He doesn't need you distracting him. And sometimes just having somebody say that and be a little bit firm, you need that.
And some people needed that extra
They
attention
did.
and extra help and they wanted it, right?
Or
So
sometimes people, honestly, some people just needed a hug. Like, I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but sometimes it's just like, shit, man. I'm like, do you need a hug? It's like, if you're offering, yes, I actually would really like a hug. And I'm like, okay.
Shout out to Rick of CRPS, who designates a emotional support hug giver at the beginning of every match. Rick is a man of great foresight in that regard. So
yeah,
it worked at
the international level because there were a lot of people. There were people from other countries. They're like, well, I just saw you hug your guy, but like I could use a hug too. Like, it's like, okay, friend, like you're a long way from home. Like, don't worry.
Yeah.
Canada's got you. But it was a lot of those things, like you said, managing personalities and who could work together and who, like, again, just needed some space, or
you almost have to be a bit of an amateur HR person and amateur sports psychologist at the same time, where you're trying to figure out who needs what and in what particular moment, because they might not need it now, but maybe in between stages you can have a quick chat and be like, hey, how's it going? And just a quick question of, hey, how's it going? And then that unravels a whole other conversation, right? And or other times it's like, man, you really shit the bed on that one, and just kind of like a look and a smile. What are you talking about? Good night. It's like, well, just razzing you, like whatever, just little thing. Right? So
make sure they're on it still.
Yeah,
100%. And there's also people that did a lot of tasks that people don't even think of, like Mary Lemmix cooked for her entire Airbnb. Savannah Masong came and braided so many people's hair because it was so windy. Like, she braided my hair, and I was like, if she didn't, brushes would have been lost. Like, it just,
you would have looked like Pigpen from the Peanuts.
Yeah. So just all of those little things, they compound and they add up, and they're important for a team.
You guys also, as kind of the board, you guys also strategically organize the Airbnb housing in particular ways so that you could have that, right?
Yeah. And not just because accommodations were going to book up early, but we booked all of our accommodations for Team Canada before we left for SHOT Show. So that's January. And what we did with that is, we strategically looked at it and we thought, here are all the people with teenage children. They're all going to be in a house together. How often do juniors from coast to coast get to interact and hang out?
And man, do the kids have a great
time. My gosh. Like, I didn't know you could fit 6 people on a paddleboard, but apparently you can. They were playing pool volleyball at the wine party at our house.
That got a little bit out of hand.
Just a little bit. But this is the stuff that
it's a great
how
experience.
You make memories. And it just, those types of things are, I'm like, okay, these are the groups of people traveling together, or
that was a huge
part of it too.
Because you didn't want people staying in different Airbnbs if they were traveling like 4 guys in one car, right? It didn't make any sense to do that.
So. Or that kind of thing, thinking about age demographics and how people would maybe fit together. And, just because you're staying at your Airbnb, like half of one Airbnb came over to ours for dinner one night on like a non-Canadian sponsored evening, I guess we'll call it. Because you just kind of get to know each other and you hang out. So we strategically planned that. Then we had a team chat for the whole team. We had chats for individual categories. Like, there was a junior chat and a ladies chat and a limited chat, and factory chat, a whole team chat. We had chats for each, so many group chats. There was one for every Airbnb group. So it's like, okay, here's what food's provided. You guys are on your own meal plan, figure out what you want to do, get to know the people you're staying with. Those types of things, so that we could really start from as soon as the roster was announced. Let's start building that team atmosphere, because we're all in it together. We're in it to win it. And there are team medals. They're
Of which Canada got a
of
bunch.
which Canada got a number of them. I'm going to
I was
read them
about
off
to
here
say.
too, because you can get a team medal for your category. You can get there's first, second, and third individual placements for each category, but you can get team medals. So we got second overall in junior. And to be really honest with you, like I think we came closer to first than a lot of people realize. We got team second in senior, team second in factory, team third in mill LEO, and we had one individual placement, which was Etienne Vachon. He got third in the mill LE category. The guy shot lights out. He was an incredible team member. I know that he is our only individual podium winner, but my God, that guy deserved it.
A couple of guys who really just barely missed the podium, like we mentioned before.
Adam Glatt got fourth in limited by one impact. You never know.
Yep.
I mean, Noel Greasley got fifth in factory. And I mean, we had people in the top 50 overall too for Canadian. We were sixth and seventh in junior. I mean, if our juniors had maybe had a little bit of even a better day one, like we could have taken 2/3 of the podium. I don't think people are realizing just how close Canada came. It was,
There's an interesting story about that too. Actually.
Yes.
So just remembering it now, when you're talking about that, just how close we came. I'm talking to Greg Bell, who's the president of the USPRA, and he was the guy organizing the entire match on behalf of the international community when the US was awarded the bid. And I was talking to him quite a bit. And he's like, Van, after day one on the Friday, we were scared. He's like, because the rest of the world caught up real quick.
Well, after day one, Nathan Higgins from Regina, Saskatchewan was in first place for TAC.
Yeah.
I think he ended up finishing like sixth or seventh, but he was in first place. And everyone's like, who the F is this guy? And I was like, Nathan Higgins from Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. Like,
yeah.
Carly's a little proud of her Prairie Boys, but
Yes.
still, I mean, it was. The people were nervous. Like the US and other countries.
There were memes before the match started.
Yeah.
About how
how
the meme culture online got called out pretty seriously at the closing
and
ceremonies,
rightfully so.
Rightfully so. It's a bunch of fucking bullshit, if I can say it honestly.
Yeah, but before the match.
Okay.
Before the match started, there were memes flying around that the U.S. was going to wipe the floor with everybody. Nobody's going to come even remotely close. And the USPRA president after day one was like, "Oh shit!" Like, because I mean, the showings in the last World Championships, which were the first ones for centerfire, I mean, it was. I mean, people were just kind of through COVID barely. It was a lot of disorganization. It was the first one.
Most people didn't even know it was happening.
Canada didn't even really send a full-fledged team. I think there were 2 people from Canada that went because they put their hand up and they heard about it, which was great. I mean, we had somebody there at least. But at the same time, and I think they did pretty good considering, but we didn't have a formal team because we couldn't qualify for enough medals. We didn't have enough people for it.
Even Italy was still of a mishmash for just about every country to try and get it together.
But I think the realization from the US that they're like, yeah, we're at the top of the game. It's like Hockey Canada, and we'll use that analogy again. But winning's not guaranteed anymore.
No.
Right? They did quite well still, don't get me wrong. They swept a lot of the podiums and whatever, but they didn't sweep all of them.
Much.
And they didn't sweep all of them.
No, it wasn't a clean sweep across the board.
Yeah, they didn't get 1, 2, 3 and everything. There was a guy from Sweden or South Africa or whatever that ended up getting like second or third.
There was an Aussie that came up. And
so,
it was tight.
And so when we started looking at some of the point spreads when we got home and trying to figure out like what's what and how close it really was.
Yeah. I mean, mere impact away.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And like Carly said, like a lot of our team shooters didn't have the best day ones of their competition, but they had great day twos. And if the day one score would have been like 10, 15, 20% higher, we would have been like it, not just us, but also like Norway and Sweden and Australia,
South Africa,
Britain and Ireland, right? So I think the US, rightfully so, is now thinking like, yeah, we still own the top of the sport, but man, they're like they said, in the next 2 years, especially after this match, every single person from all these countries is going to go back and they're going to kick ass and they're going to do way better. They're going to elevate their sport back home, and the competition is just going to get stronger and tighter. And
I think that is what is so energizing and so exciting about coming out of an event like this. We took 30
Mhm.
people from coast to coast, and it was a true Team Canada. Honest to goodness, I spoke more French in the last week than I have in 4 years, which scared the French a little bit. Um, um, no spy talk now.
Another game changer.
But not the French Canadians; they were lovely. So were the French, but it startles people. But to have like a true Team Canada from coast to coast, like, well, BC to Quebec, I guess, but all these people coming together, and what those 30 people are going to do is they're going to go back to their home gun clubs and their home PRS clubs and their home ranges and their families and their gun communities and all of those things, and they're going to tell the story of this year in Colorado. And they're going to talk about the level of competition, the style of match, the target sizes, the sequencing, the course of fire, what we need to do to get better as a country to push this sport forward in Canada. For how far we came with how few matches we really have in this country is
pretty
absolutely incredible. I
Yeah.
was telling people all year, I'm like, Canada's coming. Just you wait. Canada's coming. I'm like, okay, whatever, Carlee. I'm like, no, like,
No, literally,
We're
like,
coming, eh?
oh yeah, I did.
It's like whatever.
And people would brush me off and they're like, hey, whatever. And I was like, I don't think you understand the level of shooters that we have in this country. Because you know why? We've never been put to test. We've never gone out into the international community like this and said, Canada came to play. And we did. And we exceeded all sorts of expectations. And I know that there are a lot of people out of that 30-person roster who felt like they didn't shoot their best. And they wish that they had points back. It's like, God, if I had that stage back, where would we have been? Where would my division have been? All of those things. Yeah,
Thanks
we
for
are
that.
coming in. Honestly, there were a lot of jokes about that. But those kinds of things. I mean, 30 people who, like, some people knew each other, but a lot of us didn't know each other, came into this and did something absolutely incredible. And now what we have is a lasting legacy of how we are going to build upon this and grow this sport, honestly, across our country. And it is absolutely incredible. And we've got 2 years for centerfire, because rimfire has been developed in some areas. We've also got big gaps in our country where, especially across the prairies, where rimfire doesn't really exist in earnest and it's still trying to get its footing and still trying to grow. But I mean, we've got next year the World Championships, and we've got a good team, I think, that's going to come out of that. I mean, we're still qualifying people, of course, but 2026, I mean, look up, world, because we've got 2 years to prepare. I know everybody else does, but we've got the space to do it. And we've got
And for
matches.
now, we're allowed to keep our guns.
And for now, we're allowed to keep our guns and our 10-round mags. But you know what? Like, we also have the opportunity to go and compete against some of the best shooters in the world every second weekend in the US. And they're starting to come up here because they're like, Canadians, that's pretty interesting. Now I want to go and I want to test my skills against what they've got to offer. It's not just about Canadians going to the US to shoot all the matches. Now the Americans are coming up here, and the more matches they hear about, the more they're planning to come and shoot. I mean, God, wouldn't you? The dollar's in your favor. But they're not coming up here and just wiping the floor for easy PRS points anymore. They're coming up because the competition is good and the course of fire is interesting and those kinds of things. And what we're going to see in the next 12 months for PRS in Canada is going to be absolutely incredible. Like,
Obviously, we have a little bit of an inside track on it, but there's going to be.
I can't wait. Honestly, it's just, I mean, how many people this is inspired? And like I said, those 30 people are going home with.
You don't sound inspired.
I'm not.
Not at all.
On that topic, what do you think effect this has on the junior and even the younger shooting demographic, like those in the other categories that
You
are
know what's
are
kind of funny
younger?
about that? We kept getting messages all weekend. They're like, "Oh my God, we're watching this. It's so incredible!" And this is from like dads of juniors shooters that already shoot. They don't shoot for us necessarily, but they
just shoot in the shooting community that we know.
And they're like, "Oh my God, guys, this is incredible!"
Because they're watching it live.
They're like, "We're in. How do we qualify?
How do we qualify? What do we do? This is amazing. How do we get Canada better?
Program. Yeah. What do we do here, right?
What's our infrastructure? Like, let's do this. Like, all of those people. And I mean, I think the shooting world really does owe a debt of gratitude to the Shooters Mindset podcast and Phil Cashin from MPA for sponsoring them to go. I mean, this is their second world championship. I mean, I remember getting like staying up late watching, you know, people compete in Italy and, you know, coming up with running upstairs with the snack. And I'm like, why is the TV paused? And Dan being like, Dan Castillo. And I'm like, you feel like it's like, oh my gosh, I know him, right? Like, it's like if you know somebody competing in the Olympics. And that grew from last year. And now the number of people watching this live and junior shooters who've only shot maybe a couple of matches or any of those things.
Just an example of people watching this live, like their families or whatever, and friends back home. Like we had team members that, you know, there's one instance of a Team Apex shooter, for example, where his wife was at home with his Apex jersey on and like with a cup of coffee and like watching.
She's watching in the morning. Like
he was coming on. It was going to be his stage and he was going to be shooting next. And she's, you know, and he's like, she's never done that.
No.
So, you know,
those are the things that we're really starting to see. And like Van's right, we juniors that, you know, we've maybe met at matches or those kinds of things, they're reaching out to us. Their parents are reaching out to us. Cheyenne Masong was one of the Team Canada women's shooters, and she brought her daughter, Savannah. Savannah wasn't old enough to compete this year because she was only 13, and you have to be 14 to compete in center fire for junior for IPRF. It's 14 to 20 for center fire. But she came for the experience. She wanted to see it in person to experience it. You know, should she attempt to qualify in future years? And
I believe the answer was hell yeah.
Hell yeah. And you know, she also came in, and like I said, she was braiding people's hair and lending a hand where she needed to. She's running people bags and water and whatever, and she's spotting for her mom and doing all that kind of thing. You know, just to get that kind of experience. But all those juniors, again, are going to go home. Or if you're a junior and your parent went, and you're like, hey, that was pretty cool.
And you know what the great thing about this entire experience was? It wasn't just the junior shooters and whatever. It was also MDs.
That was the other thing. There were a lot of match directors that were on Team Canada.
We had MDs from Canada that were down there, and they're like, man, this is incredible. We need to change so many things in our course of fire. We need to make it harder.
We need to up our game.
We need to up our game. We need to advance.
This is missing from Canadian, like center fire PRS right now. And what can we do to contribute to the community?
And that's kind of what the conversations the whole
MDs,
week were.
People who RO a ton were also like, like we need to be talking to our match directors. We need to get our matches to these levels so that we can grow this.
Basically, the takeaway was, and excuse my language, for lack of a better term, everybody's takeaway from the entire match was, as a country, we need to get our shit together.
Yeah.
So that's really what it was. And I think it was a really good thing because, you know, I'll be that guy right now that I'm not going to say it, but it felt like sweet vindication a little bit because we've been kind of parodying this for 2 years now. We're like, we need standardization, we need unification, stop splintering and creating 1,000 different leagues. We need, you know, one thing that people can really like rally around and organize their shooting kind of careers around.
A standard rule set,
standard, you know, standardized scoring, like all that kind of stuff that we can have easier ways to kind of track progress. And then you can work it from kind of the grassroots beginner levels all the way through kind of the mid-pack area shooters, all the way to the top 20% of the guys that, you know, could potentially qualify for a national team. But all of that has to work together. And finally, we had like national consensus that coast to coast from everybody. Like, this is what we need, right?
I mean, just as an example, a lot of people ask the question like, oh, well, you guys hosted a PRS Pro Series match. Yes, we did. And I'm damn proud that we did. We brought the PRS Pro Series back to Canada. And we are the first of many. I am proud to say that I know that is going to be the case.
We're not going to be the only one.
We are not going to be the only one. And we never wanted to be the only one. We don't think that we're something special. We wanted to just kick the door open so that other people could follow suit. But a lot of people are like, oh, but you're just trying to, you know, cater to that top 20%. All you care about is the top 20%. The top 20% doesn't have the matches they need. They're going to go and shoot somewhere else. So all those juniors and all their parents that reached out to us when we were in Colorado saying this is awesome, how are they going to learn when all they've got is the mid-pack mafia who really could care less about getting better? They just want to go out and do whatever, which is fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you cannot develop a nation of junior shooters who are going to rise up through the ranks and eventually be the guys we're sending in the open category if we don't have them to learn from. I mean, we brought somebody out from our team from Pennsylvania
On our own dime.
to help us at Cameo this week. And he not only lent a hand to us for Apex things, but he lent a hand to Team Canada. And he ended up spotting for one of our juniors one day. And he's like, he knows all the Team USA guys because he's American and he is
He's one of the top.
He's one of the top American shooters. And he said to the Team Canada junior, he's like, you need to watch this guy in your squad and watch how he shoots this stage. Think of how much you can learn from that. And he said that to a number of other people. Watch how that guy shoots. Watch how they do that.
Watch how he's breaking down the stage. Watch how he's on this barricade. Watch what he's doing with
watch his movement. Watch all of those little things and see what you can pick up. If you don't have that top 20%, your country is not going to be in the top 20% in the world if you don't have them within your country to learn from and mentor and pass that knowledge and set the example.
Those guys, we need those guys to shoot as many Canadian matches as possible, and we have to make it worthwhile for them to shoot those matches, which is that they have to be affiliated with a league and they have to shoot those matches, right? I mean, and if they have to count for something.
Yes.
Right. So if they're chasing PRS points, they're chasing PRS points. If they're chasing NRL 100 points, they're chasing NRL 100 points. That's fine. But if they have a choice to go to a match that counts for nothing in Canada, and they have a choice to go to a match in the US that maybe is an extra 2 hours of driving,
or not even. Sometimes they're the same.
Or the same, and it counts for something. Well, guess where that guy is going to go? It's not going to be the Canadian match. So that's where the Canadian MDs are going to lose out.
And that's where Canadian MDs are losing the money and losing the shooters.
And we don't want to see that.
We don't want to see that happen. We want it to be the opposite. We want to see Canadian MDs thriving and people wanting to come up because Canada is a great place to shoot because our MDs put on a hell of a match. And that's what we really want to see. We want to see the growth of this. And so being able to have the World Championships in North America, I think was incredible because it made it a lot easier for us to send a roster of 30 people. There were people on this roster that did not have as much experience as other people on the roster. We did have a varied skill set, but that was okay because some of that is part of development that CAPRA is trying to do because we are trying to inspire people and help them raise their game and help them get to that level if that is what they're really wanting to do. Because I do believe that that is part of our job and we see it as part of our mandate. CAPRA sees it as their role to help match directors and help facilitate growing this sport because it's our responsibility.
And all of that costs money.
And all of that costs money. The other thing that's really difficult, I mean, fundraising for 30 people is a lot. And there were a lot of parts of industry that stepped up hard. And there were a lot of parts of industry that were less than kind when we asked for their support. And what was very interesting is how many people stopped me at the Team Canada windup when we were still in Colorado and said, I'd like a list of who supported our team so that I can send personal thank you notes. But I would also like a list of Canadian industry that did not, because every little bit helps and every little bit counts. And I'm going to choose to support who supports the growth of this sport. And that was hard to hear because I know that money is tight and I know what it's like to be dry as a sponsor because God knows we went on our own dime and we stayed past the 2 demo days on our own dime. We brought Madeline down with us who went around and took photos and videos and all of these things for Team Canada, not just Team Apex, Team Canada. And for 30 people, made sure to capture content and have stuff to send back home and updated moms of juniors and wives of competitors because sometimes men aren't great at sending the daily updates or all those things. And we paid for her to do that. That was something that we felt was necessary because we believed that the publicity of this was important to, again, grow it back home.
Yeah.
And I mean, there were a lot of incredible sponsors. I mean, we're going to do some sticker draws tonight. Incredible sponsors who donated whatever they could. We had an advocacy organization give us a cash donation because that was how they could support us. That was another question that came up is Why are there only certain logos on the back of the t-shirt and on the website and on the sponsorship banner? Why are only certain companies and certain organizations represented there, and why aren't
You
others?
couldn't
And I
really
said,
answer that
I
question.
can't answer that question. It's not from my lack of effort, and it's not from lack of effort of the board. I will say that much.
So I think, as far as going forward goes, I think there needs to be a lot more of a unified approach from industry and sponsors and everybody else. Obviously, I mean, trust me, we know, like Carlee said, as sponsors, we've been bled dry of like support. I think we sponsored like over 100 matches this year or something.
We got match sponsorship requests while we were in Colorado too.
well,
Like it
guys,
doesn't
it's the
stop.
end of the season.
No.
Like, what are you doing? You
I'm
guys
like-
could have been on this in January. But anyway, it's kind of funny, right? So we get it. We know
And
what
we're
it's
not
like.
the only ones.
And
Oh, yeah.
I mean, MDT stepped up huge as well. Obviously they didn't just sponsor Team Canada and with the sponsorship levels and all the prizes donated for the raffles and
The
everything else.
discounts on
The
gear.
discounts for the teams and everything else. But I mean, there were so many
All
more
sorts of
across the
things.
board. But I think the end result is Capra needs to raise more money down the road. Because I think the goal is to be able to cover everybody's travel down the road, everybody's accommodations, everybody's match fees,
Just
and
to give you
whatever
an
else.
idea,
And people, like competitors, had to buy their own jerseys.
they had to
guys.
buy their
Like,
own jerseys.
for Team Canada, like for other sports, that's unheard of. But we just don't have the level of funding that's needed for this.
Match fees were
Yeah.
$500 US.
6, I think. No?
$500 US
Yeah.
for match fees. And accommodations for the entire team was $33,000
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
plus jerseys,
Plus
plus
travel.
travel, and ammo and equipment. And
Some guys have to buy brand new guns depending on what division they're going to be in. So that gun
Yeah.
was $3,000 at least, and whatever
That's a
else. Right?
five-
So
and I mean, also
$5,000
the
to
adversity
$6,000
of having to buy
commitment.
the new gun. 2 of our factory shooters got their guns on the Wednesday. So they had like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Wednesday night, they
Wednesday night, they took possession of their guns. They had 4 days
to develop a load,
to develop a load,
break the
break the gun in, and then they left on Monday and drove for 2 days to Colorado.
and that includes loading all
That
the ammo
includes
for the
loading all the ammo,
for the match.
firefighting brass, all of those kinds of things. Now, I mean, those gentlemen still did very, very well.
Mhm.
Think of how well they'd have done if they got those guns in July.
Yeah.
That's where we
Most
say
definitely.
Canada's coming. But I mean, to have to buy a new rifle, or it's like, hey, you're going to shoot 308. So barrel, brass, you got to shoot factory ammo when you get there. So you've got to pay for that ammo to be there and all those kinds of things too. I mean, there's a lot of different factors. I mean, it can cost a competitor anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 to do this. And this was when it was in North America where most of us could drive. That's not talking about last year when it was in Italy or next year when it's in Great Britain. And we're thinking about flights that cost thousands of dollars. And if you're a junior, consider the expenses then, because for most places, you can't cross the border with a rifle if you're under 18.
You have to bring a parent.
You got to bring a parent with you. Or, I mean, if you're 14 years old, you probably want to go with a chaperone. Or your parents probably feel a little more comfortable if one or the other were going with you, or those kinds of things too, right? So, I mean, there were people that this was their family vacation this year to support that one member of their family that needed it because this is where they felt they needed to be. But this is not cheap by any stretch. And so for anybody out there who thought I was a little enthusiastic with sharing sticker draws and with our fundraising, it's because there were 30 people who really, really needed the help of their squad mates and industry and those kinds of things. So yeah.
That's huge. So
It was a big undertaking. For
It
sure.
was.
I appreciate that you're gonna try to get more happening in Canada because as someone who would like to shoot more, it definitely I take that into consideration. Like I can shoot this match, this match, this match. If I had to start going to the States, like I basically cut my match season in half.
That's the other thing. Why should everyone's like, well, why? You know, everyone's having to go to the States to shoot. Well, we don't want that to be the case going forward. We want to get the matches in Canada that we need for development so that people don't have to travel. If they can stay home and shoot, and then great, you can shoot twice as much. Like that's
And it works for everybody.
And it
right?
works for everybody.
Yeah.
And
then
rounds down
Canadian
range is
match
really what it
directors.
counts.
Yeah.
Canadian match directors are the ones that are making the money. And not that being a match director is by any means a cash cow.
Definitely not a profit center.
No, no.
Nor is it glamorous either.
It really isn't. And your time's not worth anything right now.
No. I work for free.
Yeah, definitely. Host a match for the glory and the Powerball like profits.
The status.
The status of hearing grown adults act like children.
The grown adults act like children, to go through the meme cycle, to be trashed online. And that was one of the things that Van had started saying, is Ken Wheeler, the president of the Precision Rifle Series.
And one of the match directors.
Spoke
at
in the closing ceremonies.
About this very thing. I mean, because there were memes, the same memes that said stuff about our match when they had no freaking idea what they were talking about. Were saying things about this match before it had even started. And they were trashing the MDs before it had even started.
We hadn't even handed out matchbooks yet. I know this because I was given a bag of matchbooks for our entire country, and everybody got them at the captain's meeting at the same time, and the memes were already out. So nobody even knew the course fire. But
that meme culture was called out pretty hard by both the USPRA and the PRS individually, saying that it's not helping the sport. I think if everybody has time, they should watch the closing ceremony speeches a little bit. I know they went on for about 45 minutes, but still talked about people who are givers to the sport, and the people who care about the sport, and the people who put in the time and the thankless hours and at the sacrifice of their family lives and their professional lives and everything else that they do for the sport. I'm not saying we're one of those, but I'm just saying they're talking about in general terms about people who did all the things to make this match and all the previous matches happen, and they get dragged through the mud by the online accounts and the chats and the private chats and all these different things, and the people are like trashing them. It's like, what are you doing to advance the sport?
But you're mad that there's no matches. Why would anyone want to step up and stick their neck out to be a match director if this is how they're going to be treated?
Yeah.
That nothing is ever good enough.
I mean, nobody does this for the glory. I mean,
No.
there's no glory in this.
There is no glory in being like, hey, I'm going to go check all the porta potties and make sure coolers need ice, and all of just the ridiculousness that goes on with hosting an event or those kinds of things. I think it's really sad. I'm glad it got called out. And I think there were a lot of us in that room that really felt seen by that. Because while people are making snarky comments online and in their little chat groups and all of those types of things, the rest of us are rolling up our sleeves and getting in the trenches and getting the work done. And we're the ones growing the sport. And we're the ones trying to advance this as much as we can. We're the ones in government meetings trying to advocate for our athletes and all of those kinds of things great. You can sit by the sidelines. I took a lot of flack for joining the capper board. People are like, oh, I didn't like how they did this. And oh, I didn't like how they did that. And you know what? No matter what we do, we're never going to get it 100% right. I will speak on behalf of myself and the other 4 members of the board that we do the absolute best we can. And we do it for free. All of this for free. This is not a paid gig. We're a nonprofit organization, and this is not free.
This costs us a lot of money.
In fact, yes, it costs us a lot of money, and it costs the other board members money too. And
their employers.
And so for us to do this, to try and advance the sport. And I thought to myself, I can sit around and I can complain about what a bad job I think they're doing. And I can make jokes and snarky comments, or I can jump in and I can help. And I can help push this forward, and I can be an extra set of hands. I know both of you are the types of people that you see work that needs to be done and you do it. And we need more people like that in this sport, and fewer people who are laughing at those of us who are.
So, at the end of the day, capper being what it is, there was a lot of work that's been done in the last 12 months by you and the board members. And
I cried a lot at the closing ceremony. This was a year of my life that went into this. And to see our athletes do as well as they did was absolutely incredible. And to speak to Madeline's comment, there are enough people in the world against the sport and the shooting community. It shouldn't come from within. What did Ken Wheeler call it? He said it's a cancer.
Well said.
And
it's easy to complain. Go try volunteering and then see if you want to complain after.
Yeah. right? I mean, you know full well.
So
I
what
do
was
know.
Volunteer crew that everybody can count on. That's the thing.
God,
Mhm.
not the truth.
Yeah.
Like, just
But I mean, speaking of money,
speaking of money,
we should probably roll into
the sticker draws.
Because I think that's what everyone wants to hear.
Yeah, and wondering why we took so long to do them is because we felt like this is a good podcast and you should listen every week because we do. So
at least
Well,
as
that's
long
good.
as we're not traveling at a trade show or something. So yeah.
yes, but sometimes we're at a trade show and they're doing it live. And
That's
we're
right.
there.
Yeah, trade shows are another thing. Wow.
You know what?
Like
And I think that was one of the things that was so great about the World Championships is we saw so many people and other company owners too that we usually only see at trade shows. And so to hang out at a match and have that type of interaction.
Just, have some beers with Phil from MPA and just talk to him and chat and just catch up.
He brought out a food truck one day and fed everybody on his own dime.
Yeah. He just brought his own food truck out. He ordered one to the match site and just like, here's giving out like food tickets to people. Like, here, go get a burger, go get this, go get that. And he had free beer everywhere and whatever, And same thing with, the guys from Vision and the guys from Zico and Loophole and all of our other friends in industry.
Yeah.
So it was just an amazing opportunity to catch up with them.
Loophole had great candy. Past them every time I went to the bathroom and I was like, "Ooh, candy!" And they're like, Canadian girls always going for the Milky Ways, and so they started teasing. But Foundation, all these other companies that were just there every day, and it was great because again, you're not that I don't love trade shows.
You don't.
I don't. It was different. So
it was good. It was a match setting, right? And it was outside. Everybody could actually see and try out their equipment and their demo stuff in real world scenarios too. I mean, we had an IPSC set up 15 yards from our demo area for full size IPSC for the pistol stuff that we were demoing, and then we had a 350 and 650 yard targets, 3 sets of targets out that we were shooting with the rifle. And Cale Harmon and Matt Caruso from the U.S. team popped by our booth and we were chit-chatting. And Cale, I don't know if you guys know, he's last year's Golden Bullet winner for PRS. He's also a professional shooter. He shoots for the U.S. Army marksmanship team. So I'm sure he was paid to be there that weekend as well. But one thing, he's a character and a half too, a bit of a celebrity too. So he comes around. So I'm like, Cale, what do you think with pistol and the Fusion Red Dot? You think you can hit that 365 yard target? And then him and Matt just get into it, and they're like, side bet, $50 in, yes. And they both I was just loading mags for these guys trying to hit, with a pistol.
So I walked up and I didn't know they were shooting at the 330 yard target, and I'm like, how did these guys make Team USA? This thing is 15 yards. And I'm like, it's jacked up army dude sucks at shooting.
It's like, he's not hitting any of that. I'm like, no, they're just doing a side bet to see that. It's like, that makes way more sense. Okay. Although, that bottom aiming triangle piece that we have on the bottom of the fusion reticle, that was a perfect holdover point for guys. And I got to say that Cale probably came, that much width in my field of view of hitting the target.
Yeah, he was close.
His elevation was perfect. But obviously.
So good shooters are good shooters.
Yeah. But the spread on that factory Winchester ammo that I bought at the range is, it's a pretty big shotgun.
Oh,
spread.
Also to speak to what Dan Castillo said, another reason to watch the closing ceremonies was that Allison Zane had to go back to school early because she's in university right now. And she could only get a certain number of time off from her courses to be able to come out and shoot for Team USA. And then she had to fly back. So she flew back after she finished the last day of shooting. And so she missed the closing ceremonies, but she came in third individually on the podium. And so they're like, well, somebody's got to go and stand on the podium for her and accept her trophy. And so they sent Cale Harmon because he is the captain of Team USA.
So they're like, what are the
for the ladies division, which was hilarious because he's a fit guy. He's very tall. Allison Zane is petite and a girl. and like blonde, always has like really pretty nails and all this. And
So they give him
they give him the trophy
and the
and the
flowers.
flowers, and then they make him stand on the podium with the other two women while they play the national anthem. And he's just standing
He's just
there.
covering his face.
And oh, it was like everyone said, you know what? Like that just made the whole thing worthwhile. That was the best thing. Like it just, I think because, you know, after 4 days of intense competition and all that, like a little bit of levity, I think was good for everybody. So
I'd have been smiling from ear to ear if they made me go up there.
oh, it was brilliant. Like honestly, like if you're gonna watch the closing ceremonies, that is part of.
And Marcus Olson, who was doing the
highlight.
IPRF president, he was having a great time. He's like, Kale, like you have to go. You're the captain.
Yeah.
And you just like.
Yeah, it just, and like everyone, yeah, like Madeline said, everyone was like crying. They were laughing so hard. There were a lot of tears at the closing ceremonies. I mean, it was an emotional week for everybody. I mean, obviously, just knowing what goes into this and the support that's required, and everyone's, you know, team triumphs and all of those things. But then this, I mean, it was just the tears turned to tears of laughter, and it was just, oh my god,
It was good.
Yeah.
And really delicious barbecue, by the way.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, good food there.
Yeah. So, yeah, Kale did look really uncomfortable. That was what made it just that much funnier. So, yeah, it's not like he went up there and was like, "Yeah, I'm doing this." No, he's just like, FML. So, yeah. But I guess yeah, sticker draws.
Sticker draws. We can get to that.
Yes. So we did 2 fundraisers, 2 different sticker draws. One to support the youth team because again, they have additional obstacles when it comes to funding. And then we did another one for the whole team. One is a hunting rifle and one is a PRS style rifle. Yeah, but we can get to that.
So I've got.
I'm gonna make you stay on here and listen to us to wait for us to draw these. So.
Gotta save the best for last.
Of course. Sorry, Adam. He's been asking since like hour 1.
So go into a little bit of detail for those that were living under a rock and did not see the draws. What 2 rifles were they?
So for the youth rifle, the Team Canada sticker draw, we have a KDEX Strike Pro chassis in Sniper Gray, Lone Peak Razor Action with a Proof Research barrel, Trigger Tech Diamond single stage trigger with an Apex Rival 4-32x56 rifle scope on an MDT mount, chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor by Accuracy Development Solutions, valued at over $12,000. And then for the youth sticker draw, we have a 7.8 pound all-in rifle with a MDT HNT 26 carbon fiber ultralight chassis, an Ultimatum HMB Hunter SA with an International Barrels carbon fiber barrel, a Trigger Tech special trigger, an Apex Hunter 3-15x44 precision rifle scope, MDT 30mm rings, and it is also chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor by International Barrels, valued at over $6,000.
And that junior rifle is fantastic. The few times I got to hold it.
Oh, it's awesome.
It's pretty
yeah, we have a similar setup, so we know just how awesome it is. So
words can't really describe it, other than the list of
Does it
parts.
come with the octopod that was attached to it during the Cranbrook NRL Hunter?
We might
That's
need
what
to
I really want to know.
We might need to get MDT to donate that octopod for a separate draw because I'd throw in $20 for that thing.
Honestly, you wouldn't be the only one. People were still talking about it at Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like people were asking the guys at the MDT tent, like, "Hey, like, is the octopod here?" I'm like, "Wow."
That's a missed opportunity. They definitely should have brought
I
it.
think so. It was a missed opportunity. But I mean,
just having a glass case slowly rotating.
Yeah, but with the amount of gear those guys brought down, I can't imagine having. Well, I mean, you just strap it to the roof, I guess.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity. There's always next year.
There is.
Exactly. Next Capper fundraiser.
Exactly. Okay, so should we do one of 2 draws and then
talk about the next stuff?
Talk about the next stuff? Okay, let's do. Which one do you want to do first?
I think this one is. Well, let me see.
We can do the share screen thing if we need to.
Yeah, just give me a second. Let's do. Do you want to do the youth draw first?
Sure. for the youth draw.
So I'm gonna just load in all the names. Give me a second. Make sure that I scramble them up, shuffle and randomize.
In Das Randomizer.
There we go. Shuffle. There we go.
Okay.
So do you want me to?
The winner is Mike Heinert.
Mike
No,
sees all the draws.
I did not win.
We haven't done it yet.
We haven't done it yet. That was just for the people who wanted to throw their phone against the wall.
or their whatever they're watching on.
Whatever they're watching on, put a remote through a TV. Send Chris and Kurt the bill.
Exactly. The elder statesman of the podcast.
I mean, they weren't here, so we can blame them.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Do you see this?
Let me
Add it
do
to
this.
stage.
Derek, you do the things. I won't touch it.
Yeah.
Wheel of Names. Okay.
And
Where's the spin button? it disappeared on me. Hold on.
Mhm. It's a
There it
pretty
is.
big record.
That's
You
a lot of
spin
names.
me right
We almost
round,
sold out
baby,
both
right
draws.
round.
I mean, it's a good problem to have.
Dorado.
You're a longo.
I'm gonna write that down.
I'm going to, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm gonna take a screenshot of this so we have it for posterity.
Congratulations, Corrado.
That is
Congratulations. That's the youth rifle?
correct.
Yes, that is the youth
Oh,
rifle.
that
Someone
is
from
gonna-
the Precision Rifle Association will contact you within the next 72 hours.
72 hours, that's prompt. That would have given him a week.
Wow. Have to reach out, got to get a pal, all that fun stuff.
All that
Math.
good stuff.
Okay. Awesome.
Well, congrats to them.
Congrats, Corrado.
Mm-hmm.
Little disappointed it wasn't me, but that would look kind of bad.
I'm just like, could you imagine? That would have been so funny.
Oh, if you'd picked me, I would have said draw it again.
Well, that's awfully generous.
Safe's full. I don't even have room for anything anymore.
That's
Yeah.
just a safe problem.
Let's just say I didn't enter any one of these draws because that would have been just bad if I would have won it. So I'm
Mhm.
we don't need any more rumors getting started. So
No.
we're good.
I think you contributed in many other
You
ways.
did your bit.
I did a little bit. It's fine.
Yeah.
Actually, we had a funny thing. Actually, this is a side story. I'll tell it real quick. Speaking of me not doing anything, I won't name any names, but one of the top shooter of all time in PRS, period. The most winningest single person that has won like the most matches in PRS Pro Series history.
PRS Wayne Gretzky.
PRS Wayne Gretzky. He was
Let's call him Wayne.
he
Yeah.
flew down to coach one of the U.S. shooters because he has a personal relationship with her, and he kind of promised her if she made the World's team which I obviously very easily did, but that he would get there, fly there, and coach her throughout her
She
competition.
easily did
and
because of
she
her
did win.
work.
Yeah, and she did win overall. Now he was sitting down in one place. I was doing a podcast interview, and he we know each other quite well. And he comes by. He's like, "So, Van, I hear you guys been buzzing up and down the mountain. Like Carlee's been just like a bee out there, and so I hear just buzzing around."
I did run up the side of a mountain with a shot timer for one of our athletes and had an audience, and about 30 people stepped back and watched. So
It was an emergency.
Cue
Um,
Rocky music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
training montage. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's like, it's kind of incredible to like watch you guys and your team and kind of what you guys were able to achieve in such a short amount of time, as far as like an organizational perspective, and then watch you guys volunteer with all the stuff and just making sure that like match directors had what they needed and you guys were helping out like extra set of hands doing all these different things. He's like, I know what Carlee's been working her butt up, but I don't know what you've been doing. And he kind of gives me a little wink just to jab me a little bit, but he's like, but honestly, he's like, Team USA has a lot to learn from Team Canada this year, because he's saying we're watching you guys from the side and how well
Put
you're
that
working.
on a t-shirt.
Yeah, he's like, in comparison, he's like, Team USA was severely disorganized. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of nice. Thanks, man.
yeah.
I didn't think of it that way, but it's like we just thought we were doing what needed to be done, right? And like, taking the right approach and all that kind of stuff. But all the other countries, I think, you'll see like we probably took a little bit of flack from some groups of people for, well, Van and Carlee, they put themselves in this position to be team captains and for all the glory. I'm like, we're not looking for glory, man. Like, we're just trying to help, right? And one of the things that is now going to be a standard going forward is the thing that we did, which is non-shooting captains, because every other country saw it and they're like, holy shit, why didn't we think of that? And it wasn't our idea.
No.
The cap report was like, this was
the IPRF
Yeah.
and USPRA actually requested, because it's less of an administrative burden from them or for them, because they don't have to find and then pull a shooter from the line to arbitrate something, or they don't have to distract a shooter. And then it's like, well, but now I'd like a reshoot because you distracted me with all this nonsense from my team, or any of these things. From an administrative standpoint, it makes a lot of sense if you really think about it. And so that being said, I mean, we were asked also because, like I said, the IPRF came to, so every member nation has 2 seats on the IPRF board. And 2 guys from the CAPRA board who sit on the IPRF board came back to CAPRA and said, this is what they'd like. And Josh, who is also on the board, he's like, please. He's like, I can't do both. It was, I did a disservice to the team last year. And I like, also, there's no way, honestly. Like, could you imagine?
It would have been impossible.
Could you imagine having shot that match?
No.
With all of the things that had to be just taken care of from an administrative level.
You wouldn't have had a moment of focus. No, because literally, like, from 7 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Because we're there still a couple hours
after all the shooters left. We're there meeting with the MDs. We're there arbitrating with whoever. Somebody needed something else, or we're there helping out with cleaning up for the day, or we're doing whatever, right? And so we were there until 4:30 almost every day. We didn't get back to the house till about 5. And so, you know,
how do you do that? And then
there's no way.
There's no way
while you're competing. And so every other country kind of saw that play out.
That was a lesson from Italy for a lot of countries. Not every country, but a lot. And not every country has the resources to spare to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think it was the right approach, and I think it's going to be replicated going forward.
Yeah, but it wasn't for the glory.
I actually felt like I don't know if you guys saw the opening ceremonies. I felt super sheepish walking with the team in the opening ceremonies because we're not athletes. We didn't compete in the match, but they made us do it. He's like, well, you guys are team captains. Walk with your team. I'm like, come on, man. I don't want to do that.
They were very stern about it.
Yeah, they're like, no, you need to do that. I'm like,
we're like,
okay, fine.
So we're like, actually, the picture of me, I think I'm like, but it's somewhere. It's somewhere on the camera page. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was an honor though too to be able to do that and serve this team.
Yep, and they deserved it.
And they did. They absolutely deserved it.
Yeah.
They were grateful and wonderful people, and I'm glad that we were there to help so that they could perform their best. I'm glad that we were able to be present and do that because I think it's important, and we thought it was important for the team to be able to do that kind of thing. So yeah.
So what you're saying is there's a whole roster that's going to be open for like equipment manager, water boy, all these other things.
Yeah.
We just need to raise a bunch of money to pay your guys way down.
Honestly, like the joke of equipment manager, like it's not really a joke. It's like, I forgot my ammo, I forgot my mags, I need another timer. Somebody who has the battery.
Dude, I stole an ATV.
Yeah, I did.
To go, because all the ATVs were already up the mountain. I literally robbed an ATV from the main area to go to my truck and grab my cleaning kit that I had for our demo gun, which is like my match cleaning kit that I usually throw in my PRS case. Yeah. I grabbed that from the truck with a radio and ran up the mountain in like those 20 minutes to be able to fix somebody's bolt. Yeah. So it's like, you got to do what you got to do.
The equipment manager position is real.
And it's open. I need a medic too, depending on where it is next year.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I think the only reported injury, one of those guys from South Africa potentially blew out his ACL. But aside from that, a spectator slipped down the mountain and scraped her elbow.
I mean, that's gravity's fault. That's nobody's fault, really.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was in the seniors division, so maybe he was a little bit more prone to an injury. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say one way or another, but regardless,
there was no stopping him from competing, though.
No, he finished the match.
Yeah, he did.
He hobbled around.
Hobbled from stage to stage, like. Yeah, I literally felt like we just scaled the sides of mountains. I can't imagine. And I mean, just carrying
I had-
people's tripods and things like that. I
I
can't
had
imagine.
2 stages worth of lunches. They gave me 2 boxes, and I literally ran it up to stage 20 all the way from the parking lot because I was like, let's show them my mountain goat skills. Let's do that.
It's like, oh, I'd rather take lunches than flats of water.
Yeah.
So if it's back there again, definitely gonna hire some Sherpas.
Yes. Well, and that was a question that we asked, and we got a lot of side eye for it at the captain's meeting before it started. It was like, do you have to carry all of your own gear from stage to stage? And they kind of looked at me and then they're like, oh God. And they're like, no, if you've got a caddy, if you were smart enough to bring a caddy, you can use them.
Yep. So
So
we
I was like,
cleared that with
okay.
them. Like, okay, good.
It's fair.
Yeah.
So
I think
New
maybe
job
next year,
opportunity.
next Worlds, some people are going to be hiring caddies or doing whatever. A family member here, carry my match pack, carry this, carry that. I'll
carry my
gun.
tripod.
Yeah.
Just even that
Mhm.
stuff is just a little bit, I mean, it weighs a lot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have one rule suggestion. They have to dress like golf caddies.
Yes.
it's
Or like in
clearly
the full like
discerned.
white jumpsuit, like in
Yeah.
Georgia.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. The coveralls.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
could you imagine?
Even the golf branded hat.
Yeah.
Like I need
Well,
to
we
see
had
a
talked about
Callaway
like
hat on.
sending Team Canada. Like we sold these T-shirts to raise money and that kind of thing, but sending like people with all this like Team Canada support squad just as like psychological warfare.
Mm.
Like, oh, they brought a team and a whole staff with them too.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
some countries actually showed up. I
With
think
staff.
Sweden had it. They had like the branded Sun hoodie jerseys, but they just had staff written on the bottom. I was like, huh, that's interesting. Yeah.
That's actually kind of, I would say that's kind of intimidating to the other countries that they have a support team that comes with them.
Yeah.
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 Mm.
Like, excuse me, can I wash your shoes? Can I do this? Can I, tie your shoelaces up a little bit?
Are you good? You hydrated? You need a Gatorade? Pedialyte? What do you need? What do you need? You need
Yeah.
gum? Like,
Oh,
We have
we have a story.
Andy.
Andy
brought it up
on the range.
Mm.
So, Andy's wife was expecting, and she is one of his biggest supporters in this sport. And I remember getting a call from Andy this spring, and he's like, she's not coming to the match anymore. And I was like, she's pregnant, isn't she? And he's like, well, yes. And so it was really hard for her not to be there because we're really close to her due date. And he was kind of worried about coming. And I was like, worst case scenario, what? Her water breaks and we put you on a plane? Don't joke about these things.
Because it happened.
Because it happened. Madeline came running over to me, crying, tears streaming down her face. I was like, oh my God, someone's leg is broken. Who fell down the side of the mountain? Or just who knows what, right?
Yeah.
And so
Whose
she's
rifle
like,
blew up?
"The water broke." And I was like, okay.
And we just go right into
And we
problem
just go
solving.
right into problem solving mode. I ran and I got Van and I was like, put Andy in the truck. Madeline's like, I'm looking for flights. I'm like, no. We're getting in the truck. You're booking the flight in the truck. When you drive back to
We're
Ghost
ripping
Passport,
down Cameo to get onto the highway, and we have to go back to the Airbnb to pick up his pack. He's got to throw a couple things into a backpack.
So I'm like, who can
Yep.
take his luggage home? The Tischlers, who he traveled with, were taking his luggage home. And then we're like, what do we do with this rifle? And I'm like, he shoots a lot in Pennsylvania. We're going to Pennsylvania next weekend for the Northeast Regional Finale. Who can meet us there with his rifle? So I'm looking around. I'm like, who
So
do
we
we know?
we
So
found
we found somebody. I was like, we're talking to the match directors because they run MKM. And he's like, I don't have room. He's like, but here's some other people. And then he's like, I'm going to go talk to the Loophole guys. Maybe they can do it. No, they can't. They got an event in Ohio. They're not going to make it. So I'm like, okay.
So I finally see John Galati.
John Galati.
His
His
son-
son won top junior.
Yeah. So great shooter out of New York or New Jersey, I
New
guess.
Jersey.
But they shoot a lot in MKM at the Pennsylvania range.
And so they actually know Andy.
So they know Andy. They know everybody there. They're like,
knew the story.
I'm like, John, I need a favor. He's like, what kind of favor is it? With his thick New Jersey accent, it was amazing. He's like, does it require a shovel? I was like, no Sopranos needed. I'm like, okay. You guys flying back? He's like, yes. I'm like, I need you, if you can do me this favor, to take Andy's rifle back with you guys. He's like, yeah, no problem, absolutely. He's like, we flew in business class or something. He's
We
like,
got extra
we
luggage.
got extra luggage, won't cost a thing. I'm like, thank you so much. Like,
So-
I'm like, we'll pay for it if it's extra luggage. Like, we'll take care of it, no problem. He's like, no, it's done, taken care of.
Van burns up to the airport. I stayed back because I'm still running point on all the craziness. Van burns up to the airport. He's not even to a full stop. Andy and Madeline are out of the truck. Madeline's running up to the gate agent and is like, this is what's going on. So they get him through security as
They like
quickly
literally
as
rushed him to
possible.
the front of security. It was like
And
a
then his
movie.
flight gets canceled out of
Oh,
Grand
no.
Junction.
No.
And so we're like, no. And everybody around knew it was happening. They put him to the front of the line, got him on a flight. He had to fly through Phoenix. All of this, flight arrives early. He gets to the hospital. He's running through labor and delivery. They're expecting him. He gets into the delivery room. 5 minutes later, baby comes. He made it.
Just in time.
Oh.
And he's still wearing his Team
He's
Canada.
still wearing Team Canada jersey.
We literally pulled him
He's
off the
everything.
plane to bring him to the airport so he can make the flight, and he only had like a few things on him. He's still wearing his tack pants and his his Team Canada jersey.
And
so
honestly, I
pretty
mean,
special.
there were a lot of families that endured a lot of tragedy throughout this event. Actually, they had a lot of bad news from back home. Match directors, a lot of health issues. The match directors were well aware of all of these things happening, and this kind of scrambled at the end of the day. And the baby was born early in the morning, and so we came to the range the next day, and it was for closing ceremonies, and everyone's coming up to us. Did he make it? Did he make it? Did he make it? And we're like, he made it. 5 minutes to spare, but he made it.
And people were almost like crying.
People were crying tears of joy because, like, honestly, like, Team Canada brought the joy with this. People needed this feel-good story. It was like a romantic comedy, and it's an amazing story. And what a birth story to tell for the rest of, like, but everybody was so invested in this and all the other countries, because they're like, I had people running up to me. They're like, Vanna's coming out of here like a bat out of hell in a pickup. I saw Madeline running over to you in tears. What is happening? And then this starts rolling through, of course, all like 20 stages or 10 stages that we're running and all this and then everybody's like, well, what happened? Like, where is he? Like, what happened? Oh my God, is he okay? And we're like, oh, everybody's fine. We're just like on a time crunch here. But this story just, it was a perfect way to end this event. It was a feel-good story to end the events with something like that. And the fact that so many people from so many countries were so personally invested in hoping that he got there and wanted to know, did he make it? Did he make it? And then when you tell them, and they're just like, the waterworks. It was pretty incredible. So yeah, community.
Honestly. That says a lot about our community.
Yeah. The amount of grown men crying at this event.
There was a lot of it.
Oh my goodness.
No Cale Harmon, but
no, he did not.
Yeah.
No.
The guy's a machine. Yeah. In the best way. But yeah, no, there was a lot of emotions. And I actually made that comment to Carlee. I said, in a supposedly very macho sport, right? If you think of it in very traditional terms, what the outer perception or the outside perception would be of the sport and this community in general would be, there was a lot of like public affection towards another like other men and saying like, hey man, I love you so much. Thank you so much for doing this. And like there was so much appreciation and tears. And this was 2 years of some people's lives getting ready for this event and putting it on, because the US wasn't initially supposed to host it. It was supposed to be in South Africa. So when it got canceled and pulled from South Africa because of the turmoil and everything going on there and kind of the uncertainty around some of the security for competitors and families, it was going to be like, well, US was next on the list because they were the other country that bid on it, and they were on the short list. So it went to the US next, and the USPRA and Greg Bell jumped into the conversation and just took it off and ran with it. So that kind of emotional outpouring at the end was very evident, and I think it was just like a release of a lot of emotions and frustrations and work and everything that everybody put into it over the last few years. And we kept telling Greg and Michael Beamer and Ken Wheeler, like, you guys knocked this out of the park.
They really did.
There is no other event that you could equate this with at this level. It just didn't exist, because you guys have set the standard. You've set the golden standard that everybody has to meet or exceed. And the number one thing they said to me was, whoever does this next, they can have our playbook, and we'll be on speed dial 24/7 for them. Anything they need, because we want to make it bigger and better for the community. So we don't want 22 countries next time. We want 30. We want 50. We want 70. You know, and we don't
want to be the ones that knocked it out of the park and then everybody's always compared to them. No, every year is going to be better than the year before.
And that's the goal. And these people aren't just trying to be, the quote unquote, the perception of arrogant Americans
Not
and
at
all that
all.
stuff. Not at all. These guys are amazing.
We tease
members.
them because they can't pronounce anyone's names.
Any
What's
international-
no, just.
Any internationally is watching the ROs do it was hilarious. But
What do you
anyway,
think about that, Vanja?
Yeah.
Like,
and I don't know,
just
Andridge.
Foundridge and Vanja, yeah, just.
Mhm.
But
I
really,
have one question though. Did they have air conditioned bathrooms?
They did not.
They did not. I will say.
So they
that.
have room to improve yet.
Okay.
They definitely have room to improve.
No match in the history of the Precision Rifle Series, from what I've been told, has bathrooms like our match had.
No, it was.
I remember saying to Madeline, the bathrooms they have at the Cowboy Stampede tent? For how gross that entire tent smells, their bathrooms always seem so bougie. And she's like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make this happen. And she did. And people were still talking to us about our bathrooms at World Championship. Hey, I heard you guys had a match. I heard your bathrooms were amazing.
It was a highlight of that weekend. I'm not gonna lie. There were many, but that was definitely one of them.
Yeah.
But it's funny though, talking to all these competitors from all over the world, they all heard that we had a match, and they had so many amazing things that they heard about it, and obviously the bathroom was one of them. But but so many people are already planning to come from all over for the match.
My wife wants to come to Banff.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, come shoot the match. You guys can go to Banff. Like, perfect.
I've
Done.
always wanted to attend the Calgary Stampede.
Oh
Great.
boy.
Yeah,
Well, you're in for a
Still
few
coming.
things then.
you're in for a few things. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a crazy how cowboy culture is pervasive in Germany. I don't know if you guys knew this or not.
It is. It's so crazy.
I
What?
saw video of a rodeo in France.
Ooh.
No.
So there are niche communities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like
In
Western
Europe.
culture is very popular in places in Europe, right?
It
So
is.
it's
Mhm.
like them to
Cowboy
come-
culture.
Cowboy culture. So them to come to like the Calgary Stampede or to see a rodeo in person and the whole
Is the
shenanigans. and everything,
pinnacle
It's like,
of.
yes, we're gonna be there. I'm like,
To
sweet,
smell cow
Oh,
shit.
no.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
International it up.
But I mean, like what Carlee mentioned, I guess the future of the sport in Canada. I mean, they're going to be working really hard on the CAPRA board to get things standardized and to get things moving in the right direction and kind of establish the grassroots and the training programs. And
And we want it to be an open door policy with match directors. If you're thinking of running a match and starting a match and you want to know where to start, I mean, in all reality, like just about all of us on the board have been a match director at some point, or we've attended enough matches that we can point you in the right direction. We're there to mentor you. We're there to take those questions and to support you and point you in the direction that you need, or set you up with the resources and the framework to get this going. And
I believe there was a question earlier about like, is CAPRA going to be standardizing like stuff for match directors? No, I think the standard has already been set.
Yeah. it's
And-
already there. The framework is there. We don't want to, like, the PRS doesn't want to boss you around and tell you how to run your match. CAPRA's not going to do the same. And
That was Dan that chimed in.
for MDs across the country for qualifying. So we do have qualification standards, and I know for Rimfire 2025, there's been a lot of questions about that. I mean, we did have to set a minimum distance, a minimum number of stages, a minimum number of competitors, and those kinds of things. I mean, if you're the king of 5-person matches, that's just not going to qualify you at this level. I mean, those matches are important. We need them. We need to introduce people to the sport, and we're happy to support at that level as well, for resources, because again, it is about growing sport in the community. Just certain types of matches are what we need for qualification because of the level of competition for a world championship. And we are seeing other countries raise their game as well. It's not just us.
What's interesting about every other country, and you mentioned it,
Yeah.
comes to mind, is that every other country has a PRS affiliate. So there's like PRS France, PRS UK, PRS Norway, Sweden. Every IPRF country
Namibia.
has standardized on the PRS standard. So that's kind of why CAPRA chose PRS Pro Series matches as qualifying matches, because one, they're, if you want to anywhere in North America, you can travel to them like fairly easily.
Yeah.
Just
Or in the world.
like the guys, if you want to go to the
Yeah,
world,
go shoot one
go
in
shoot
Norway.
in Norway
We'll
or
count it.
Sweden, whatever. Yeah, we'll count it.
Absolutely.
Whatever you want to do. But the whole goal is to bring more of those standardized matches to Canada as well, right? So
But
like
we have to do that because otherwise we would be the only country not doing that.
and it is a
Mm.
PRS World
World
Championship.
Championship.
So
It is
that's
that discipline.
key that in mind as well. Like it's that particular sport, it's that
Yeah,
discipline.
discipline.
So the rule set is standardized, and they're aligning the
rather
rules
affiliated.
it's just kind of like NHL and IHF, like IHF,
Yeah.
right? Like it's
PRF
there's
is
like
the NHL.
small little differences, but generally speaking, it's the same, right?
Well, and it's interesting because talking to other countries, I'm going to use Namibia as an example. I said, well, the US have PRS Namibia, but then you also have NAPRA, which is the Namibia Precision Rifle Association. Every country is whatever PRA. And I said, how are you finding getting different board? He's like, no, we're the same. He's like, NAPRA is PRS Namibia, and PRS Namibia is NAPRA. He's like, we are one governing body for all of it. And so that's kind of where we, keep saying that we're the Hockey Canada of precision rifle shooting in Canada, because it's important to have that standardization. And when as much blowback as CAPRA did take for the qualification standards, what we were doing is we were following what every other IPRF nation was doing. We had to follow the same standard, or Canada was going to get left behind. Or there would also be questions about why we were doing things everybody wants to do things the Canadian way and have the Canadian thing. I mean, there's still a Canadian spin on it because we're Canadian. Of course, we're going to do things our way. But, we do need to have that standardization that the rest of the world is implementing as well, because we don't want to get left behind in a sport that we clearly excel at.
I honestly, I see no reason why Canada can't beat or come in second to the US in pretty much every category next time.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If we
I
just
mean,
can get
for
our
the most part, we proved we did.
Yep.
To an extent, especially on the team side. I think it's also big credit to the captains and the other co-shooters.
Considering we have winter and they can shoot year round for a lot of them.
That's the other thing. Other countries and even parts of the US, they can shoot year round, or there's 5 matches close by this weekend and they've got to pick and choose between them, or things like that. I mean, our season is a lot shorter. I think that was something that we all realized when we went to the Cranbrook NRL Hunter match that the Beckleys hosted, was that the Canadian teams, this was their first match of the season.
The rust breaker.
Whereas all the American teams, this was their 3rd or 4th, because they just have the climate that we don't. And as somebody who's shot Steel Challenge Nationals in the snow, I don't like loading mags at the best of times. I don't like doing it when I can't feel my hands. Okay.
Yeah, and I think the availability of matches is something that needs to be fixed going forward in Canada. Like we said, both at the club level, which is the 1-day matches, and then at the kind of the upper tier level, which would be the 2-day matches.
Because not every match needs to be a 2-day match.
No, we need way more 1-day club matches that people can just drive like an hour or two for in the morning and go home and have supper at the end of the day, right? Like you go out, you shoot, whether it's rimfire, centerfire, it doesn't matter. And we're encouraging clubs, if they're able to host one centerfire match and one rimfire match on the same weekend, then people who shoot both can come out for both and have a good time, and then go
one or the other, or
choose, right? So it's kind of like how IPSC does it, right? Where they have their qualifier matches, and those matches, there's usually 2 matches in one weekend. It's the Saturday and Sunday, they're separate matches. So you have one weekend, you shoot 2 matches. That's pretty sweet. So
I think too, we always talk about competing at the world championship level, and people really underestimate how much the grassroots programs really do. It was posted on Facebook this week. So Jess Tischler, who was a member of our junior team in Colorado this year, she started at Project Maple Seed. She was a Project Maple Seed student. And now she went and she competed.
Like 4 years ago or something?
She competed at a world championship. She didn't start shooting centerfire until last year. I know, because Van squatted with her in her first centerfire match, and she took it seriously in Pennsylvania, and she honed her craft.
And we told her, I said, hey, listen, Team Canada is going to be selecting, and we need juniors for sure to round out the team. Would you consider it?
It's something you need to think about.
So it's something you need to think about, and you and your dad talk about it, and you guys figure out if you can dedicate the next little while, get some more matches under your belt, and get some experience, and boom. And she walked away with Team Junior second place trophy.
And
so
honestly too, those are things that match directors and squad mates need to be doing. They see somebody who's got a passion for the sport,
or is good at it,
and mentor them, or think, hey, have you thought about doing this at a higher level and really shooting to, forgive the pun, to get there?
one more example about Jessica too, and this is something that kind of ties back to what we talked about before. When she shoots in Pennsylvania, she shoots with Allison Zane or Allie Zane. Young Gun PA on Instagram. She is one of the best shooters in the country, not just not one of the best female shooters or the best junior shooters. She's one of the best shooters, bar none, in the U.S. The U.S. has.
She's incredibly gifted.
She gets to shoot with Allie all the time. Whenever she goes down to PA and Allison shooting that match, she squads up with her. And you know what happens? Jessica's level increases.
Jessica gets better.
Because that's how she was able to get so good at center fire. I mean, she was an amazing shot to begin with, but center fire is a slightly different game, right? So you have to manage your recoil, drive the gun a little bit more stable in the pros, whatever, right?
I think we've all watched it with Chase Beckley. I mean,
Yeah.
we're going to say he won our match, but he won that match fair and square because he put in the time. And the guys that he was squatted with were guys that came up from the U.S. that win a lot.
And they were chasing him for the match.
They were chasing him for the pun intended, obviously, but
they watched him.
Yeah. And even in Colorado, you could see him watching his squad mates and learning from his squad mates from other countries that would help him raise his game and help him perform better.
And that's why we need the top 20% of the guys to stay in Canada and shoot as many of the Canadian matches as possible, because it will raise everybody's level up. Right. And that's why we need the American shooters to come up as well. The top guys, we're trying to recruit them to come up to every single PRF.
And they're awesome. And they want to help us grow our sport, which is crazy. I mean, we all think about women's global hockey and Haley Wickenheiser going across Europe and building up those programs for women's hockey internationally. The United States want to come up and help us do that. They want to come and shoot our matches and help us grow our program, get more matches and do that. They don't just they want, sure, everybody wants to win and be at the top, but they want to compete. They want to challenge. Competing's no fun if you're just winning easily all the time. They want the challenge.
Do you want to be Team Canada beating Team China 34-1?
No,
it's
force me to raise my game and have my personal best.
So I mean, we're seeing that across the board. Where we need all of that to happen, and I think it's going to happen next year for sure.
We're obviously very excited about this. It was honestly really inspiring week.
So I think that's what's next for this sport in Canada, is that we need more matches both at the club level, at the pro series level, and I think we're going to get it because there's a new batch of MDs across the board and across Canada that are enthusiastic, that are wanting to change their they've taken the torch on from the guys who have built this sport up in the last 10 years, and
the ones who got it to where it is today.
And we cannot be more thankful to those guys,
honestly, because being a match director is a thankless job.
Permanently thankless. Honestly, and those match directors mentored us a lot. I spent a lot of time at matches riding around in side by side with match directors, knowing one day we were going to host a match and trying to learn as much as I could from them. I mean, one of the things I did learn was not to take shit from anybody, and
good skill.
Cry in your own time.
But on top of that, I think we're going to see some significant movement in, I think, the right direction going forward. And it's really exciting to see a lot of clubs that are going to be part of this new thing that we're going to be announcing, I think, hopefully soon.
There's a lot happening and a lot coming down the pipe for this sport. And I'm so excited. Yeah. It's going to be amazing.
And that's going to be announced by Capra or...
Can't say it right now, but I won't be right now.
Stay tuned.
I'm just not going to announce it. No, but I will say, if you are watching Capra stuff, 2025 is just around the corner. We have not yet closed qualifications for Rimfire, so get your matches in.
Yeah, so you're saying there's a chance.
There's still another 14 months to qualify for 2026.
So just to reiterate what the qualification standards are for next year's next selection process for 2026, right? So 14 months of remaining qualifying time. You have to have 5 matches that qualify, which is Pro Series matches anywhere in the world.
Any 2-day PRS Pro Series match.
As long as it sanctions, it counts. Your score will count.
Yeah. So if you want to go and shoot in California or Florida or Pennsylvania or Calgary, or wherever your heart takes you,
you can. And you just submit your 5 best scores, and that's what can potentially get you on the team. That's that simple.
Yeah.
And that's for
then
center fire or for rim fire?
for center fire.
That's
For rimfire, it's a little bit different. It is 5 matches. But because rimfire is set up a little bit differently,
They don't have a Pro Series 2 day
they
series.
don't have
right?
that series. So we've set it at a certain distance, certain number of stages, and a certain number of competitors for those
So
matches.
I think
to
it's 40
qualify.
competitors minimum.
Yeah,
And
7 stages, I believe.
7 stages minimum, and minimum distance
3.
250 yards.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then there
Or
are,
like, there has to be at least one stage was like a target.
and then there are matches, like some finales that are a multiplier.
Issue
Because
So
like,
if people are
300
so people are sorry. If people are complaining that there's not enough people to show up to a match, bring 2 friends that haven't shot before and get those numbers up. Because A, you're growing the sport, introducing new people. B, you're hitting your 40 and then you're in there.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, we've had a lot of matches, especially out west, canceled because people wait till the last minute to register.
and the MDs can't count on that.
No,
right? So
they can't count on all these people last minute. You
thanks,
just
Michael.
200 yards. Thanks, Michael Bay. It's I mean, if people don't register, and honestly it's your responsibility as a shooter. Bring 2 friends. Why not? Introduce them to the sport.
That was reiterated
Makes
by
it look
all the
better,
match
too.
directors and the USPRA president as well. Said every single person here, it is your responsibility and nobody else's to grow the sport now. You go back to your countries and you drag as many people out to the range and introduce them to the sport. And that is literally the closing message of the
Yes.
entire World Championships,
Mhm.
which is a pretty amazing message because it's like,
Yeah.
yes, and everybody needs to be reminded it's just not going to happen by itself.
No,
right?
it isn't.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Everyone's
that's,
responsibility.
yeah. I mean, honestly, already the people that I know that are going to be like applying to qualify for 2025, there are a lot of people who are really upset about how they did in Italy and they want a rematch. And I'm very excited. So when I said this year Canada's coming, whew, just you wait, Great Britain. We're coming for you there too.
We're coming, eh?
Yes, we are coming.
Okay.
So it's pretty exciting. It's a pretty exciting time
And apparently,
to be a PRS competitor in
and,
Canada.
and apparently the venue in Britain is going to be pretty awesome.
Oh, I heard it's epic. I was talking with the organizing committee for Great Britain. They've already got great ideas for opening ceremonies and how they just want to introduce people to their country and how they plan on doing it. Sounds just incredible. It sounds like something. Go as a Sherpa. Go as like a spotter or to help out your
I volunteer as tribute. I'll go.
That coverage for ballistically speaking.
Absolutely.
That would be amazing. I mean, I love Shooter's Mindset. They do a great job, but I loved the stuff that you guys did at our match, and I think we need more of that.
Hey, twice the coverage is twice as good. They were only on one stage at a time.
Exactly,
There's
because they're a
There's
small
more
group.
stages in the day.
I mean, if we can get ESPN 8 the Ocho to cover this, that'd be pretty sweet.
Well, I mean, they do wear tweed in England.
They do.
So
Oh, I
I
could get
would
I could get real tweed.
Mm-hmm.
You're selling me on this already.
Good.
Mike,
Yeah.
you laugh now, but Mike is gonna book the tickets probably.
perfect.
I'm already on WestJet.
Oh, their international flights are divine.
They're good.
Oh, like compared to their domestic service too. Plus, they've got flights from Calgary to both Gatwick and London.
Oh,
Like-
we're set.
Oh, yeah, just go.
Dan Castillo's got an idea here. That needs to be a team shirt. We're coming, eh? That should be the fundraiser T-shirt.
I like it.
Mhm.
Let's do it.
Dan gets full credit for that.
Full credit, Dan Castillo, former member of Team Canada. He's a veteran of that squad.
So when
Alumni.
Went to Italy and got his rifle 9 days before. So,
Oh, Madeline is
Well, now I have to go.
see,
For,
Madeline needs a
flight
chaperone.
Yeah, we might lose her.
Mm-hmm.
Traveling with me is interesting.
Okay, good.
Awesome. I'm
Wait.
so glad you're coming to SHOT Show.
Way to sell yourself.
I'm not even gonna get started on that.
I don't know if I want you to.
Well, do you guys want to do the other draw?
Yeah.
Let's do the other draw. People have been anxiously waiting.
Sorry,
Mm.
everyone.
Sorry, we like
It's
to
okay.
talk. All right, let me share my screen again. I got the other stuff loaded into that.
Wheel of Names.
Da 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 da.
Nope.
Didn't queue up a soundtrack for that, but I'll make some noises. Da 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 da.
Wait, so in the meantime, if Capper's a non-profit, can I donate the money and get a tax receipt?
No,
So-
because we're not a charity.
Two different things. Yeah.
I would,
Well, we
because
do get asked that question a lot.
I would give.
I appreciate that.
Any way to pay less taxes.
Yep, that's.
Am I right?
I think you guys are going to try to work on that down the road, but I don't know if the Precision Rifle Association qualifies as a charity in the eyes of this particular set of governing bodies.
It really is up to the CRA.
Yeah.
We're 10 years away from being in IOC contention.
So actually,
75 countries. That's all we need.
so that's why I think the goal is for the IPRF is to bring the member countries up every year to the minimum threshold of 75, because then it can qualify as a demonstration sport,
It's close.
which would destroy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of the Olympic shooting sports, in my personal opinion, are not interesting compared to like IPSC and PRS, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only interesting thing that happened on shooting sports, in my opinion, was the Turkish guy, and that was it, right? So,
And it wasn't for
thing.
the sport. It was for the memes that came of him just like casually like, yeah, okay, I'm the best. Okay, we know.
Yeah.
That was the other thing though, when like somebody was getting like a little too in their head at Worlds, people were just like, just be the Turkish guy. This guy needs a dart. Who's got one? Like,
Yeah.
All right, guys, you want me to do this?
here we
Let's
go.
do her.
Wheel of
Spin, spin,
Fortune.
spin.
Wheel of rifle.
Right twist, I guess.
Da-da-da-da.
Marlin.
Marlin.
Congratulations,
Congratulations.
Marlon.
Awesome.
The
Congratulations
lucky
on your
winner.
win, Marlon. A member of the Canadian Precision Rifle Association will contact you within 72 hours.
Is that your official thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
No one asked me to say that, and everyone else on the board will roll their eyes at me.
Yeah,
It sounded very official. Very official.
that's awesome. Good. We're happy for everybody, and I think you guys, I think we just want to thank everybody who
Everybody bought
the ticket.
stickers and shared the draws and printed off the posters and hung them up at their ranges and their offices and passed them around and sent them to friends. No one achieves anything alone, and fundraising is really difficult. I mean, I know these are like $20, and if you want a sticker, reach out to Capra. We'll get a sticker sent your way. I know that there's been people who have been waiting for their stickers, and for that, I apologize. We will get those stickers to you. By we, I mean I. Sorry, been occupied with.
Put my stickers aside for me, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I will with managing the team and what have you. So thank you for your patience there. But no, we appreciate the donations and the industry that has rallied around us and come to support this team, and all of those people who just stepped up in the community as well, buying stickers. I mean, it
makes a big difference, and it helps lighten the load off the shooters a little bit.
It really does.
I mean, we're hoping, I think, like I said before, that down the road that nobody's going to have to pay their own match fees. Nobody's going to have to buy their jerseys. Hopefully you can cover some flights and accommodations down the road as well. But the goal will be to cover your basic equipment stuff first and then everything else after. But, once this thing, the government meetings that Carlee's talking about, like those wheels have been set in motion to try and get some sort of national recognition as a potential Sport Canada funding and whatever else, all kinds of things, because
we're working on it. We really are. I mean, the Capra board, we speak every day. I don't think people realize that. We all five
this is like
of
a
us,
second full-time
this
job.
is like a second full-time job. We talk every single day, and there's always something that needs to be done, a task that needs to be completed.
That's a little crazy, just putting it out there.
Yeah, we don't share everything.
Dedicated crazy.
Yeah, but we're working really hard.
For the good of the sport.
Yeah.
While you're talking to the government types, maybe you just bring up, our athletes suppressors would really help the athletes with, the noise pollution.
I've been in, yeah.
Yes.
Which is, I'm not on the board for Capra, but I mean, like every private meeting that I have with anybody that has anything to do with government, I'm like, we need suppressors, please.
Well, also because all of the other countries ridicule us for it.
They call us savages.
Savages and barbarians.
I'm not going to have Europeans ridicule us because we can't have suppressors. That is nonsense.
Yeah, they do. They really do, especially at IWA in Nuremberg, Germany. Yeah, and do you know what they say? Think of the children.
Oh,
Yeah, you guys need suppressors. Think of the children.
Thinking.
I will even pay more money just to own one. That's where I'm at this point.
Yeah.
Mike will actually
will-
pay more taxes for that.
Can I
Which
give
is
you more
something
money?
I'm against.
Have them take my money? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
I will give willingly my own Robert Bordens just to own a suppressor.
Well, then
No.
it's so much nicer shooting suppressed. I mean,
It is definitely more civilized
well, it is. Accuracy International had a 50 BMG
at the demo.
at the demo day, and
Mhm.
everybody was shooting it, and they thought it was awesome. And it was
There's just a lineup of
You walk up and
Canadians.
shoot a 50 BMG for free.
for free.
Ooh,
Suppressed.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I mean, the suppressor was like this long. It almost looked like integral, but
Yeah.
What targets did they have for it? At what
I think
distance?
the 1,500-yard target
I think so.
that was placed halfway up the mountain.
Yeah.
well, at least he had enough of a backstop.
And were a lot of people successful at it first try?
I don't
I
think
had
so.
no idea.
I think the
Okay.
rifle still moved a lot of people physically
Yes.
speaking.
Yes.
There were a few people that got scoped.
Oh,
It's a great way to start the
Ye-
match.
Right?
you don't know until you try.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, we've been going for like 2:25. Should we end
I
her
am
here?
hoping-
Because we could probably keep going till midnight, and then Chris is gonna be like, I have to upload all this, and
Mhm.
thanks a lot, guys.
And,
So
Is this the first time we've ever been on together?
yeah,
no,
I
you've been
think
on before.
Together?
so together as both of them. It's normally been one or the other.
I can't remember. I think maybe once. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Definitely first time in a long time then.
Mm.
But we
Well, we'll have to do it again.
We are always the longest guests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we all know each other personally, so it's just like talking. It's not like we're meeting somebody new. It's, hey, old
That's
friend, let's
true.
keep talking about the stuff.
Yeah.
The things, all the stuff and things. Yep.
Yeah. And that was, what did I say to Team Canada? I was like, well, guys, at the end of it, we did a thing.
We did a thing.
We came here and did a thing.
So just do a quick plug on Capra, where people can find you, all that wonderful stuff.
Yeah. CanadianPrecisionRifle.com is the website that has all of the social links. It has the current roster of everybody who went to Colorado. It has the qualification standards for the next 2 years. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, and we post there regularly. We do shooter profiles on everybody. So if you're curious about who went to Colorado this year and what gear they're shooting and all of those kinds of things, that's all there. Scroll back through the posts. We post if you're wondering, well, what matches are there this month that might be good qualifiers for me. We share those on a monthly basis as well. We really do just share a ton of information of kind of what's going on. If anything changes with the IPRF, we post that. Obviously, we've got countdown going now. We had a countdown for Colorado. Now we've got a countdown to Great Britain. And so we just really try and share as much information as possible. We do have a link there that you can just donate directly to Capra. For all of those of you who wanted hats and t-shirts, we are sold out for the 2024 ones, but we are going to try and have ones for 2025 to raise money again for Great Britain. And so, you can support the team from home and that kind of thing. We're going to get that rolling early 2025. So stay tuned for that because you can buy those through the website as well. And any other fundraising that is going on. There's also a contact page. So if you're a match director looking to get started, or a shooter looking for matches, or questions, or anything with that, we're there to support you and support the community. So don't hesitate to reach out.
And thanks, Mike.
And
Kind words.
Yeah, thank you,
Yep.
Michael. It was nice having you there. Thank you.
no
for
problem. It was
coming.
fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
I had as much fun
You should
shooting
have.
as I did. I'm coming to Britain. Put it that way. I'm coming to Britain.
I mean, I bet Michael Bay is glad he went. I mean, it was probably hard for him because he probably was one of those people who was there wanting to shoot, but to be there to, support the team and support people and spots and, help out and just be a spare set of hands wherever necessary. It was, it's nice to have. So
It was definitely
it's
appreciated.
definitely appreciated. There's a long list of people that came out from Canada as the support squad, and
Everyone worked together.
I'm afraid to name names because I know I'll leave somebody out, but
They know who they are.
they know who they are.
Exactly.
Yeah,
thank
a
you
lot of
to all
good
of them.
times, hilarious inside jokes, and
Not enough Zoolander references, I would say, but
there were
some.
a couple.
There's room for improvement.
That's right.
Yeah.
If I had any feedback for everybody.
We were in the Starbucks drive-thru and Van's trying to order, and Dave Garrioni's sitting behind me in the truck, and he's like, "Get him to get me an orange mocha frappuccino." Every day, but it was a half-hour drive to get to Cameo. Every day, I had cried all my eyeliner off before we even got to the range, just from laughing.
We had a good time.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Okay.
Yeah. So
let's
Thanks, Dan.
speaking of thank yous, let's do our closing comments here. A big thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, wouldn't we have a show in the first place? Shane and Steve with EM Precision Rifles, Miles, Carey, and Cappy with call sign 66, Duncan and Rob at Bolt Action Coffee, Phil Odell at Odell Engineering, Doug and Niza at March Scopes Canada, Vanja and Carlee with Apex Optics, as you may see in front of us, Oscar with Ribstone Gunsmithing, and J.R. Cox with The Shooting Edge. Unfortunately, I don't have the little plug in front of me, but just a quick one. If you want to support the show and support us directly, check out Storied Knives. It's a great knife company, great product, and that's a great way to support us directly. So check them out, and that will be it.
But some of these bullets, as you saw, have an incendiary device on the tip of it, which is a heat-seeking device.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Welcome to your weekly dose of BS, the Ballistically Speaking podcast.